Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is December the 13th of 2023, and that means it is time for your unlucky day. Your unlucky day where we talk about manga the same as we do every Wednesday. That's how unlucky it is.
Yeah. You could even say it's an undead unluck.
Yeah. Sure.
Nick, what's your favorite kind of salad?
My favorite kind of salad? I am partial to one that has, like, berries in it.
That's right, Nick. A Waldorf salad.
What?
It's a little Waldorf from Statler and Waldorf. He's got a little sign that says because he's bored with you.
He's a little Lego Waldorf,
Yeah.
I see.
This was a Christmas gift or a birthday gift from somebody, my sister, and I was like, oh, and then she spent money to make sure I actually got Gonzo.
Aw,
So
that's nice.
they're really hanging about. They're judging me. Anytime this podcast is getting slow, I'm gonna lift old Waldorf up. Just know he's heckling us.
All right.
In the world where the Muppets are real, which is a world I absolutely want to live in, both like spiritually and sexually, just know that's what he's doing to us. He's really being harsh, spiritually and sexually.
He just
You call that no face? More like a dough face. Tom Waldorf, I don't like the way that you're treating me.
Jesus.
This
is a world I don't want to live in, personally.
You don't get the pick.
I'm okay with...
I did, but you don't get
the Why didn't you get to pick the one I got to live in, then?
That
doesn't seem right.
I thought you'd dig it. There's no chocolate cake in this world.
Oh, well,
and Muppets oppress us sexually. I thought these were two things you were down for.
I guess it'll depend on which Muppet is oppressing me sexually. But I'll weigh my options again.
I'm gonna say Dr. Teeth.
I feel like I could deal with that.
Yeah.
I think that he would, be too, let's face it, high all the time to really be too harsh on me. So
that just means
he would just like speak in so much hippie lingo that I couldn't understand what he was being mean to me about. Your provocations are most upsetting to my verifications. Whatever. Like, what? I think he just said that I'm not like good at dirty talking, but I don't know for sure.
I'm gonna pee on you. You're like, no, I get that. This one I get.
I get that part.
I don't get where the urine comes from. You're still a Muppet. So is it the puppeteer's urine? Is it like a little tube? I don't know how we got here, Nick. But we're here.
I feel like we got here because I know you personally. That's just like the only explanation I'll ever need for how we got to this point.
We do have a bunch of series we're going to talk about.
Over a dozen today, so I guess we should get that ball rolling.
We should also say we have too many. And I've heard the audience say that we think there's too many in the recap, so we will probably be cutting one sometime soon, at least. Probably one of the ones we just don't care about, which could be anything. Some could say it could be even an elusive choice.
Yeah, or a bocce choice of some kind.
Yeah, some would say it could be a Kagurabachi pickle. Which one to pick?
Oh god.
We might go out for a Kagurabachi ball tournament to decide which series you remove.
I think that's the only pun you can make off of that title.
I was struggling. The first one was nothing. The second one was a little something.
It was a little something. I credit you for going back and trying to make something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Unlike the author of that series. Okay, so My Hero Academia.
Damn.
Chapter 409, Quirk Explosion. This is a Bakugo chapter.
Yes.
How do you know it's a Bakugo chapter? Because ugly old man face baby Bakugo. Baby Go is on the very first thing that you see in the series, little baby being held by his parents, and then we get just a couple of important moments that Bakugo has had in terms of his development, specifically training his skills and stuff, conversations he's had with Midoriya, and now he says, to himself in this moment, Izuku, I won't stand in your way anymore. Which there's definitely some stuff that goes on at the beginning of this chapter that I think definitely leans into maybe Bakugo's gonna die. It seems like they're supposed to there's some stuff going on here in terms of his internal monologue, and of course the fact that he's got all for one and unleashing all of these quirk factors at once in order to rocket towards him. That's supposed to make you think, oh god, what if he dies?
Oh no.
Right. All Might is calling up to him you got to dodge it. But Bakugo is in midair, holding strong. He extends his arms up and he just says, please blow up. Blow the hell up. And some explosions go off, including right in All for One's fucking mouth. And he explains by saying, yeah, so, it's raining and that affects my explosive abilities, or rather, as he puts it, it's putting a damper on my oomph, which sounds a little bit too dorky for Bakugo, so...
Yeah. We're gonna put a characterization note in here. Bakugo would say fucking oomph, I think.
Yeah. The rain's putting a damper on my oomph. All right. You really did come back from the dead. He just talks completely differently now.
Yeah.
But he says that
he's like, hot dog, my attack worked.
Garsh.
Cool beans, All for One is down.
Hot diggity.
Oh boy. I'm going to finish the job.
Golly gee and Willikers. All right, let's do it. And so he basically indicates that he left some time bombs, essentially, by coating his explosive sweat with regular sweat, which is very impressive sweat pore manipulation.
Oh, you don't have this? You haven't coated your sweat with a different kind of sweat?
Not since I was in high school and could produce that amount.
Yeah. That's fair.
So he basically left some sweat in All for One's mouth. Understandable. That guy does seem to just have fluids flying all over him all the time. Bakugo brags that the one quirk that he's got is enough, as opposed to, All for One having, a billion. Mm-hmm. And All for One starts ranting and saying, it's all my powers are in disarray, I gotta finish him off. And he's like, this is my tale! Move aside, you extra! You nobody! And Bakugo does his big signature technique, howitzer impact, huge, massive, spiraling explosion rams straight into All for One. And everyone is shocked by this, as All for One is stunned. And then we just get this beautiful 2-page spread of a bunch of explosions going off at point-blank range from Bakugo into All for One as he screams, "Get wrecked!" Which, that sounds more like Bakugo.
Yes, this is a great 2-page spread, by the way. Extremely cool. Bakugo looks awesome. The big get wrecked. Good shit.
And all the booms, of course.
Gotta love those booms.
And Bakugo says, what we've all been thinking towards All for One this whole time, shut the hell up.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice just having a character be like, shut up, you big fucking nerd, and hit him with explosions. I'm like, God, very satisfying.
There is an explanation that the quirk factors inside All for One aren't working properly. And the one that he stole from Hawks, shows up to mock him, and basically says like, "Yeah, my fans are here to greet me too. Check it out." Cool.
Sucks to suck, no loser.
Yeah, and also he's insanely young at this point, and also he's just really, really angry, so he's losing control over all these things he has to keep inside of him. And Bakugo just palm strikes him in the face and explodes him at point blank range, and declares, "This is our tale." And a big old explosion goes off one more time. There's like 5 different 2-page spreads of just Bakugo exploding all for one.
It's extremely satisfying because you're like,
everyone is observing this.
I was gonna say, it's satisfying because this is like everybody. This is not the main antagonist. Like, we know Shigaraki is our big bad. Hello. Just had there we go. Sorry. Yeah, like it's cool because this is like, we know Shigaraki is the big bad, but like All For One technically should kind of be like, he's the mastermind. So it's nice that like his defeat is getting this much focus of like, here are like 5 straight pages of him getting his shit pushed in, and the art is incredible in all of them. It's wild that there are so many different ways to hit him in with explosions, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said like really just echoing the audience of like, get wrecked, shut up, fuck off.
Yeah, it seems like this is it. This point, like there is no reason in the world that All For One shouldn't be done. Now, please don't do any more fake outs. Stop it. Stop right here. This is the finish.
Yeah,
he's done. And I do like that, they do continue to hammer home the idea that, like, look, this only happened because everyone threw everything that they had at All For One. It wasn't just All Might's last stand. It was all the pro heroes and all the students who all put everything they could into this. But at the same time, Bakugo does get his big moment here. It's a very glorious beatdown and a big indicator of, like, look, Deku's going to be this big hero this fight and all, but this is also Bakugo's big emergence onto the scene.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. Like this chapter. Very straightforward, but is exactly what we all wanted. So, hooray.
Extremely satisfying, which is, but straightforward, but satisfying, which is how I like things generally. This is top tier quality, you could say.
Yes.
So, Nick, let's move on to talking about Undead Unluck. This is number 187, Soul Boost. Now, Nick, what does that card do in Yu-Gi-Oh?
I don't think that's an actual card in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Well, what would it do?
What would it do? It would probably be something that would actually be, honestly, kind of, like, underwhelming when you really thought about it. Like, it would have really cool artwork, and it would have a single episode where it was, like, the key to a big turnaround for the protagonist. But then you read the text, and it's like, when your monster is attacked by an opposing monster that has at least double the attack of the monster that is attacking, discard a card, and it's like just all these conditions, and it's like, and then it gets like 5,000 attack power, and you're like, oh wow, 5,000 attack power, but it's like, you would never be able to play this. It would, and then it's like, and also it's way more restrictive than it appears to be in the anime. It would be one of those kind of cards. It's a trap, so no one would ever play it.
Aww. That's a shame. What about trap monsters? Everyone's favorite archetype.
Oh boy!
All right.
Do you like having half your board available to play?
It's like, do you like one card taking up twice the spaces? So stuff happened in between the last 2 chapters. A month and a half has passed as they've traveled to the sun. Which is,
we skipped all that space travel.
Apparently, how long it takes to get to the sun is a month and a half. So we see that the Sun team is there. It's Nico, Fuko, Gina, and Engine. And they're like, all right, so turning off the sun will be bad for Earth. So we need to do this for only 5 minutes.
We have to be very careful.
Yeah. turn off the sun now, and he does. It is wild that he is this powerful. Like, this is like a scale I feel like I haven't really seen before in an Undead Unluck character, where he's just like, all right, sun's off. Yeah, it just turns off. It doesn't even seem like he needs to focus that hard. And they're like, cool.
Just does it.
The flames are gone. The heat's still here. We have these suits. These suits will last for only like 5 minutes, though, and that's fine because that's the time we're working with anyway. And immediately they find Andy, which makes sense because they knew exactly where they were kind of looking. And he is just a charred body. Like, just a crisp, basically. Like, you can see his outline definition, but, you know, you would almost be correct to think he's a statue. Very, very rough. And Nico is like, ooh, there's not a lot of vitals going on here. And he's also giving off a lot of heat. So, like, even being near him would reduce the amount of time we're going to be able to spend here. And it doesn't matter if Fuko is immediately already running up and hugging him. And she's like, ow, hot. And Nico's like, what are you doing? I just said it won't last. And she's like, no, please. He has surface temperature. And, you know, he's like, all right, fine. Let's like figure this out, get this equipment, all this sort of stuff. And in the meanwhile, Fuko is just starting to kind of talk to Andy, where she thanks him. And she's like, you know, it's because you've done all this to keep these rules from coming out that I was able to meet everyone and we can make it here. And this is like a wild and crazy thing to do, but I'm doing it because you taught me to. Yep. It's, you know, I got it from you, Dad. I learned it from watching you, except it's love. And Nico is like, look, I don't know how to tell you this, though. Like, there's no brain activity. Like, nothing's going on. Like, I know he's undead, but I think this guy is... And Fuko's like, nope, he is undead. He definitely won't die. Yeah, he's okay. I recall from the previous loop, your version said something about how undead's regeneration is slower against flames, basically. Stuff like that affects like that like the surface body of a person. So I'm going to blow away that portion. And she takes her gun and she shoots Andy in the head.
Specifically through the ears.
Yeah. Nico's like, you could have used some hesitation there for a moment. She's like, nah, this is the second time I've done this. And
we love each other.
She then jams her thumbs into Andy's head and says, Andy, I'm using vibration to relay this message. Prioritize your hearing and regenerate. And yeah, she sorry, I guess I jumped ahead a little bit. This is where she says, like, I've learned all these things from you, so this is pretty crazy, but it's okay. Nico's like, okay, this is good. We only have like 2 minutes though. And then a voice calls out to them that says, hey, you're on someone's house. Stop with the PDA. And who should it be, Nick? With the number 3 master rule.
Yes, the DNA helix hair.
Yes. She says, I've changed my mind. You're dying right here. And then all of a sudden, like the other members of Unions, like their spacesuits start changing. They start shifting. Like the material that makes up the suit might be turning into another type of material or something like that. And they're like, holy shit, our suits are deforming. The air is gonna get in. And they realize, like, oh, no, this is her power. This is really bad. Everyone get to Gina. Gina, use Unchanged. And she does it, and suddenly the suits can't morph anymore. They can't have anything. When I say suits can't morph, I'm suddenly talking about Power Rangers. But,
yes, you are.
The suits can't, become something different.
Right.
And number 3 says, I see. So you're my vessel. She looks towards Gina. And we don't get, like, any, like, little, like, pop-up or anything. But this tells us 2 things. 1, this is change. 2, there are, like, vessels to some of these rules, which does lend credit to the theory that number 1 is dead. or death, and Andy would be his vessel. But this is a very interesting little like wrinkle to throw in there. So she says this to Gina and looks at her and says, "In that case, let me change you into a more attractive woman." And when Brawla...
How dare you?
when Brawla White writes her fan fiction, this is where it's going to start. And they become romantic partners after that. But I do like the mean way of just being like, "Aren't you ugly?" You're like... So...
Girl, you need a facelift. Fuck you.
Yeah. I guess we have known that there have been them for a while, because there was Unburn and then UMA Burn. But I guess realizing the master rules follow that same scenario as well. Andy gets up. She's about to attack, and Andy starts walking towards her, and he lifts up his hand. He doesn't say anything. There's like narration that comes up, but it doesn't seem like he says anything. His fingers glow, and we see the narration of like parts bullet, soul boost, fingers, and this gigantic attack launches out, and it goes right past Change and shoots into space. And she's like, "Wait, he wasn't aiming for me, for the Earth. Wait, what? Where are they?" And she looks, and everyone from Union is retreating at this point. They're getting out of there. And she's like, "No, you are not getting away." But before she can do anything, there's a chain linking her to Andy. And she says, "You're a lousy vessel of death. You let them get away. How long do you plan on staying there? If you're a so-called human, then follow my damn rule." All the Union members are escaping. And
Goodbye! Get
like,
on the ship. Let's go home.
Yeah, they're like, "Okay, so that didn't go great." Is that one of the master rules? Fugo's like, "Yep, that was the one who sat in the third seat." She's like, "Fuck, the third seat's after us already? That's not good." And like, no, don't worry. Like, like we got info essentially, because Andy's attack wasn't pointless. And she contacts Ichiko, and she's like, "Can you track these bullets? I want to find out where they're going to land, because I'm sure that info will lead to the greatest and most vital teammates that we need right now." And we see shots of 5 different people. It's Bunny, it's Unlove, who I don't remember her character name, unfortunately, Top, what I presume is Tatiana, and then I was not sure who this was supposed to be at first, but then I realized, like, oh, it's Juez. We just don't get to see her usually with the helmet and the long hair. I believe that's Juez.
They have the whole thing with the T and stuff.
Yeah. So Unchased. Sorry, it's not Unlove, it's Unchased. That is correct. So it looks like we're setting up our next characters to get. Once they get these people, this is essentially everybody. I know there's theories that Unruin is also going to be on the list to grab at some point in time. But yeah, it does look like a younger version of Juez is on the docket to be grabbed. So I guess we have our next 5 arcs set up, Nick.
Well, yeah, I guess so. It does make me wonder about a couple of different things. For example, like we've got this idea that there are officially counterparts to the 10 on the evil council. And I've been wondering this since Sick came in, if that was going to mean that Lucy, Unhealthy, was going to come back.
Yeah.
And this kind of seems like maybe.
Yeah, potentially.
I don't know exactly how, throwing a sick person at the cause of sickness is going to exactly help, but...
He's like, "Oh, I can't get you not sick! This sucks!"
Get sicker! Damn it!
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what some of these other characters might have, like, a thing. Maybe that Knight character is Justice or something like that, or... I don't know. There's a lot of potential in there, so...
it's gonna be neat to see all these different characters. Those last 3, I'm very excited for.
Yeah.
Top back in, and I've been looking forward to Tatiana coming back, and Juiz, who isn't the one leading the loop this time, so could potentially be a very different kind of character with this situation.
Yes. Good stuff. This is, I think, a very interesting chapter.
Interesting choice to have like 3 chapters dedicated to the ramen standoff and 1 chapter dedicated to going to space to get
Just stopping the moon or stopping the sun.
For 1 chapter.
I mean, it does show where the priorities are. It's like the characters are more important than what they do. They're just going to do wild, crazy shit.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that it's like, okay, well, what's the purpose of this chapter? So they can go get these 5 characters. Yeah. So, yeah, I like it. All right. Blue Box.
Blue Box.
It's chapter 129, With the Right Effort. I would kick off this chapter with a little bit of a collage of just kind of various moments that we've seen in the course of the series so far. But this time, they are very specifically focused on sports and progression, especially for Taiki.
Sports.
The sports manga has sports in it. It is particularly for Taiki's progression and his determination. And he suits up. He goes to the gym to train. Chinatsu is already there, and they're both, just practicing separately. But then we cut forward to just going over, like, what's Chinatsu up to? Well, she and her team are, going into the spring tournament right now. And so the Chinatsu is going over things with a couple of the most important members of the team and saying, like, look, the last year we competed against some other strong contenders. I don't think that things are going to be easy this year, but our efforts will not betray us. I want to go to nationals no matter what. And she goes off to talk with the rest of her team and the advisors for the club, or kind of comment on this, being like, oh, she seems like more grown up than most adults.
Yeah.
She's very straightforward and mature about this, but also very determined. They discuss the tournament bracket specifically. Chinatsu and her team do. And points of notice are that Yumika's team would be up against them in the 3rd round. And Saisho's first opponent is Shinko High School, which placed 2nd last year and also gave them a really hard time. So they're not sure if Yumika's team will even make it to facing them, because they've got a really hard opponent ahead of time. But while they're discussing all this, Chinatsu's just kind of quietly looking on. And she's like, all right, guys, don't worry about what team we've got coming up. Let's focus on practice. So, again, very straightforward, determined, mature kind of approach to things.
Yep.
I mean, this is her last chance. She's like, I'm just going to do it. So, Taiki is with the badminton club, of course. And he looks over and sees that the volleyball team have come forward and be like, oh, the 1st and 2nd years made good luck charms for the 3rd years, and oh yeah, thanks guys. So Haruyu comes up to beside Taiki and says yeah, there's qualifiers for nationals for the basketball team tomorrow. And Taiki says, do you want us to make you guys good luck charms? No. Especially because if you did it now, it'd be a total hack job because you'd rush it. But Aryu says, besides that he's going to be here until summer. So, the next tournament's not the end goal for him. And he says, maybe I'll have you guys sing me a cheer when the time comes. So, something even worse. But he also mentions to Taiki, hey, you've been practicing with Yodo? And Taiki's like, yep. Well, if you want to beat Sajikawa, that's the least you could do. So,
boom.
Taiki's big goal is still ahead of him as well, of course. We cut to a practice session between Taiki and Hyodo. He's still not able to return the smashes the way he's been practicing, and Hyodo is saying, look, you're dropping your guard. I'm still only using 45% of my power, which is a very shonen athlete thing to say.
All right, Frieza, calm down.
Yeah. But he tells Taiki, look, I'm not going at you full force right now. You've got to at least be able to return these. And Taiki does realize that he has gotten a bit better so far. It's just that Hyodo is so good that returning his smashes is just a really big, really high standard set. Meanwhile, Haruto is also there, And he's like, yeah, I hear nowadays, like, a lot of people say, like, oh, if you have one strength, you just gotta take good care of it. But the thing is, in badminton, you can hit smashes, but that won't necessarily guarantee that you can win. You gotta be good at offense, defense, strategy. You gotta juggle all those things. And even mastering one thing puts a lot of pressure on you. And Yoda just says, like, yeah, that's what makes badminton interesting. Because, you could handle everything. You might be a specialist, but once you face someone better than you, that's it. But if you don't have a specific weapon, you can still raise your overall skills and face off against any opponent. With the right effort, anybody can make this game their own. Yeah. And then he hits the shuttlecock and it bounces off the floor for how hard he hits it. And they're like, yeah, it's easy for you to say that, mister. I hit I've got a rocket on the end of my racket. But they just have to basically keep on going ahead. Taiki thinks to himself, our efforts will not betray us. I believe in that. Same thing that Shinatsu's been saying. Like, look, I just got to trust that the effort I'm putting in is going to pay off.
Yes.
Taiki turns down when Hyodo offers to take them out for food again. So they're going to part ways. But Akari stops him and gives him a little bag. It's like, here, please take this. These are recordings of my brother's tournaments, including footage of him at Nationals. I thought you could use it as reference. And Taiki's face lights up. He goes, really? Oh, sports!
I look how excited he is. And then you look at her and she's like, oh, he accepted my gift. Like, she's all excited. It's very adorable. It's not going to end well, but it's very adorable.
Right. And he promises to return, but she's like, it's a copy. You can keep it. It's not the only physical copy. She goes to catch up with her brother, who kind of turns and looks at her. And then
she's literally also thinking of how you respond with her. Really, like, she's down so bad for this kid.
And Hyodo just looks at her blankly for a second and then says, yeah, I don't mind if it's him.
So fucking, what a relationship these siblings have. He's like, nah, it's okay if you want, if you're after him.
It's not like that.
Guy. Yeah.
It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not.
I didn't kiss him. Throws a ball at him or a shuttlecock at him. Runs away. You're like, oh, you two might have been meant for each other.
Oh no! If only you were a year older.
Yeah.
So Taiki goes home, watches some of Hyodo's matches, and is just like, God, he's so good. God, I want to get better. I want to get better. I want to battle against strong players. I want to go to nationals. Because I bet if I do that, it'll be the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Aw, sports. He likes them. He's like put his head down while he's been thinking about this, and he looks up. Chinatsu was there in the room with him, and he thinks, like, did she teleport in here? And she was just watching him while he had his head down because she thought he was sleeping because she thinks he's cute when he goes to sleep.
I love that, because we've gotten more and more, focus on Chinatsu, when we see her blank expression looking at Taiki, you kind of, know that in her mind she is just the deer in the headlights, I didn't know you were going to wake up. I thought you were just going to be sleeping there. It seems like she's very knowledgeable.
I just wanted to watch you sleep. You're cute.
Yeah. You like to think she's this fey creature who's just all observant and stuff like that. But instead it turns out she's also just I didn't think you'd see me.
If I hold perfectly still, yeah. Maybe he'll go back to sleep. But out loud, Taiki says, I really want to go to nationals. And Chinatsu agrees. Me too. Let's go. Aww.
All right, Nick.
They're supporting each other.
One of them isn't going to get to good nationals. That's just the way the series is going to go.
Quinn, right? How dare you suggest this?
All right, well, right now, Nick, put your money where your mouth is. Who goes to nationals?
If I had to pick between them, I would say it's got to be Chinatsu. How heartbreaking would it be if it's not her and Taiki does go when it's not even his last chance to go and it is hers?
I think it's going to be the inverse. I bet Taiki's going to go. And I think maybe her team will experience an unexpected loss.
It's going to be hard when it happens, but it could happen. Yeah, we'll see.
We shall see.
All right, it's time for a little bit of spy and a little bit of family. It's Spy Family Mission 91.
Together at last.
Yes. As they have been for the past 90 chapters.
It has been for
plus bonus chapters.
4 years or so, Quinn. Like, no, finally. Spies and family, together at last. No one would have seen this partnership. No, what do you mean, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Get out of here.
Really? A Spy Family? I've never heard of such a thing. It's got an anime adaptation. I've never heard of that. It's in its second season.
What's an anime, Nick? I don't think I've heard of one of those. We talk about manga here.
A completely unrelated topic.
Yeah. Our mortal enemy is anime. Thank you very much.
I thought it was the woodworkers.
We can have multiple mortal enemies.
That's a good point.
It makes us cool and gives us lore if we have multiple mortal enemies.
It's great if we have more enemies because who needs friends? All right, so
we have each other.
That's a good point.
There you go.
Yeah,
us versus the fucking world, Nick. You know, you know what else is my mortal enemy? The fucking Costco up the street. You know what? Everyone who works at Sherman-Williams, every bitch named Ashley, every one of those is my mortal enemy. All right. There's a guy on TikTok who, I'm sorry to tangent us, we have so many series, but there's a guy on TikTok who does a video like every day, and he will say goodnight to everyone except the following, and he gives two very general things, two moderately general things, and then two very specific things. So it'll be like, goodnight to anyone whose middle name is Ashley, or except anyone whose middle name is Ashley. To anyone who had tortellini tonight for dinner. And then, like, it gets very specific where it's just like, if you're watching Zootopia right now, or something like you're just like, fuck. And that's my greatest fear, is being the very specific one day and be like, fuck, I didn't get wished goodnight by the stranger on the internet.
There was the big thing that's been going on in a lot of the circles that I am in, was that this one plagiarist YouTuber got called out by H-Bomber Guy and Todd in the Shadows back to back, and he has a co-writer named Nick. So there's a few times in Todd's video when he just goes, I think that's really bad, Nick. Todd, please.
I thought we were cool. Todsy.
It's like a very, like only people named Nick watching the video have that experience. Like, oh, why are you mad at me? Oh, but Spy Family, sorry.
Spy Family!
So we, first off, in case you missed the last chapter, are kind of get a brief, reintroduction to the Althans, the older couple who moved into the same apartment building as the Foragers. And they, Yora and Anya kind of run into them on their way to their day out, and they're like, "Oh, you're a student at Eden Academy," and Anya like poses in her uniform. She's like, "I'm exemplary." Good, yes, you are, Anya. Good for you.
That's a big word.
Yeah, I'm surprised that she knows how to use it.
This is like when Elmo was on Jimmy Fallon. He's like, onions, carrots, balsamic vinegar. You're like, that's very impressive. I didn't know Elmo knew that word.
Yeah. There's also kind of an odd moment where I guess it's because of his age, where Althan refers to Yor as Anya's mom.
Yeah.
And because Yor's like, your mom? What are you? It's like, I guess that's kind of weird because I guess would expect him to say like your mother or something like that, or your.
No, I mean, I think I thought it was because he just assumed she is her child, and like Yor was like, oh, right, like that's the fake story we're working under, but just immediately be like, oh, your mom. You're like, oh. Now I might have been misreading. Maybe it was taken more as like an age compliment.
It could be a couple of things.
Or
maybe. It could be a couple of things. I mean, considering that Yor is her adoptive mother, maybe she's taken aback by that. I don't know. Anyway, we get a little bit more, like Mr. Althan, having Alzheimer's kind of stuff. Where it's like, oh yes, we've got to go to that function of yours. Lunch. I like lunch. Me too, Mr. Outhen.
Like, I vibe with this guy. I also squint my eyes and slowly descend into just being like, when is lunch?
When is lunchtime? I feel you, dude. Anyway, the thing that they're going to is something that yours workplace is helping out with, which is a charity bazaar for disabled veterans. So a lot of people from City Hall, where your cover job is, are carrying a bunch of stuff around, helping out. Your, of course, is being made of power and carrying like giant stacks of it without a care in the world. And there's also like some complaining among her coworkers about the fact that they have to come out here and do this stuff, and they bring up like, oh yeah, the Lady Patriot Society is going to be coming by here, and then you're all of a sudden just like, Lady Patriot Society, oh, Melinda's club, like Melinda as in Melinda Damien, like the former first Melinda Desmond, the former first lady. Yeah, she's their chairwoman. Oh yeah, she mentioned that to me. It's like, you're saying you know Melinda Desmond? You're lying. No one, a former first lady wouldn't associate with a municipal employee. Come on, that's ridiculous. But as they're working, Millie, who is the one who has frequently been at odds with it's just suddenly looks around at a bunch of people, including specifically at some of the disabled veterans that are there, and she says, I don't think I can do this. I'm just gonna go back to the office. And people are objecting, but some of her friends say it's like, hey, that's progress. You managed to come out this year. You tried. So, and whereas last year she refused to come at all. She couldn't handle it. And Yor starts to receive the explanation, but wouldn't you know it, the Lady Patriots show up, minus Belinda. She's not there, and they all just like look down on the help who aren't pulling their weight and say, excuse me, could we see a little more hustle, please? Yeah.
Where's the oomph? And Bakugo shows up and he's like, I'll give you the oomph, and then he flips everyone off. Yeah, he blows up the whole thing.
Hooray, the hero we all needed at this veteran's benefit. And they start looking down on these workers, and especially start like looking down on them for not understanding the cost of peace, basically, because they're all younger than them, and they're saying like, oh, I'm sure I hope you understand that there are soldiers who still suffer from injuries, suffer from PTSD, and the workers start trying to say like, yes, we understand, but Millie speaks up and says, at least those soldiers survived. They made it home, so hooray for them. My dad didn't make it home. He didn't get to come home at all. And so everyone's stunned into silence by this for a second. But then kind of the leader of the Lady Patriot says, oh, so you think that gives you license to just slack off? You're not the only one who's lost someone. Janet here lost her husband. You're just trying to make this solemn occasion all about you. You know nothing of the world, you pitiful little girl. Oh.
So brutal.
And so Millie, gets upset and she turns away. The woman starts to go after her and is like, I'll smack some sense into your worthless little head.
This is where you're like, I hope someone tackles you. You're such an awful person. To like go after somebody who's already like, I'm leaving this conversation. You're like, oh, you're a monster.
Millie's already been embarrassed and she's like leaving. And you're like, no, hold her down so I can smack her.
I'm not done reprimanding her yet.
Now that you have committed a faux pas, I can do whatever I want, and I'm in the right.
Yeah.
Yor gets in the way, and she says, look, I apologize if we've been negligent in our duties, but why do you think Millie is pitiful? Why do you think that she's worthless? And they start, say, she doesn't deserve special treatment here. And Yor says, like, look, I also lost my parents in the war. So now I'm working as hard as I can. And she stacks up like every remaining box that they have there and just sets them all up. Hey, look, I'm working hard for everyone. So everyone here, please do the same. And each of you carry 10 boxes each. And the women are like, what? We can't do that, obviously. And Yor holds them out in one hand and she says, well, I can do it. It's like, Not everyone's a gorilla like you. And then Yor looks at them and, like, dead-faced says, then why are you so convinced that Millie's the same as you? Ooh. Good for you, Yor.
Yeah. Your rules.
So they start to make objections about, like, well, I mean, obviously people have different physical capabilities, so what? But now Yor's coworkers are starting to get the message. They're also starting to stand by Millie's side, too. And one of them says, like, you're saying that emotionally we're all the same? In that case, there's no difference between those who are suffering and those who aren't. We're all just one big happy species. The ringleader starts to get really worked up again, saying, it's like, oh, our generation had to suffer through the war. You guys didn't. Don't make light of that fact. And Yor says, I'm not saying you didn't suffer through the war, but we've got respect for you for that. But as children, we also had to suffer through the war too. We had to deal with our parents not being around. I think that might be true of everyone our age. We all had to deal with it in some way. Generational trauma, it's a thing, especially after nationwide conflicts that kill hundreds of thousands of people, if not more. Probably more. So Yor says, look, I'll just carry Millie's load too. I hope that that's acceptable. And they're like, yeah, that should resolve things. And this woman won't let things go. You've seen what Yor can do with one arm. Why are you thinking you can attack her? And she comes in with, like, I will smite thee, wretched brats.
Yeah, she's ready to go in and just start smacking people. You're like, oh man, you're really just the worst in every way.
Fortunately, Melinda does show up in that moment. She is incognito because she's wearing a headscarf and sunglasses, which means that no one will recognize her. And she catches the woman's hand and is like, you are embarrassing yourself. Stop it. And they start to explain themselves to her, but immediately she just goes up to Yor. It's like, oh, it's you, Yor! Clasps her hand, and oh my god, they actually do know each other. And so now everyone is like, oh, wow, she knows Melinda. Oh, okay. But now I guess Millie, in for a penny, in for a pound, is really upset about this, and she says, like, Desmond's the one who started the war. He's the worst. What sort of person could be friends with the wife of a monster like that? And it was like, oh, come on, the situation was just getting diffused. Please stop. And Melinda is, like, shocked by her outburst, but the chairman, who is also Yor's contact with the garden through the government, says, you're actually mistaken. Chairman Desmond was not the chairman at the start of the war. It was the previous prime minister. You are making yourself seem ignorant. You need to learn history. Dress her down pretty quickly. But Melinda diffused the situation by saying, look, my husband was prime minister during much of the war. She's not entirely wrong about that. And she has the right to feel that way about us. And she steps forward and says to Millie, I know this won't help to atone for all that you've suffered, but I have parents too. I've got children. I've got a husband. If I lost any of them, I would resent someone for it too. And she takes Millie's hand when she's getting called away, but she takes her hand and is like, oh, here, let me carry these for you. And she actually takes stuff out of her hand and it's like, does some of the work for her. And she says goodbye to all of them, and Millie stops her for a second. It's like, I'm sorry for what I said. Aw, some understanding was gained. And so Millie has been shaken by all this, and so they offer, like, hey, do you need to go to the station? She's like, no, I want to help out for a little bit longer. And she acknowledges, like, I don't really remember my dad much because I was so young when he died. His absence mostly just left me feeling lonely, and I blame that for things not going so great for me, and for the way I blow up sometimes. But I do have this job now, with all of you. And you too, Yor. Thank you. Aww. The one that she doesn't like, she likes a little bit more now. And then she calls her a weird, clueless robot. Oh, that's
fair enough.
Very nice.
We got close enough.
Yeah. Then we close things on a joke because they point out, like, oh, we didn't know you were hanging out with a fancy person like Melinda Desmond. Why you don't even know how to act posh? And she's like, what's posh? Oh, we got to teach you how to act posh. Yor gets home at the end of the day, and she says, "Heartiest salutations, dearies," because she's talking posh now.
I do like that every time she goes out with her coworkers, whatever they say, she just is like, "Oh yeah, I'll absolutely go along with that."
I need to fight with Lloyd, clearly.
Yeah, I need to fight with Lloyd. I should speak in the fanciest, most over-the-top way. This is a good chapter. I like that we get to focus a little bit on this character, who I forgot that this was like a specific person. I just thought this was like, hey, we need someone for this scene. We're gonna make somebody, and everybody's like, no, Millie's like actually like a character with history in this series and stuff like that. She's like been like kind of like a little bit of like Yor's antagonist at like her workplace and stuff like that. So I do like that a lot, and I also I think Belinda is slowly becoming like the most intriguing character in this series, because you get so many different sides of her. Like, we know that there's a side that actually seems like it has like a level of responsibility to it and everything, and then we also know that she has another side that is just like for lack of a better word, like fucked up. Like she has like very difficult thoughts going on in her head, and a potentially difficult relationship with her youngest child, where like she might not really care about him that way, and or struggles with it and stuff like that, and her connection with her husband. I just think she's a very intriguing character, and I love seeing like little bits like this that give her a little bit more focus.
She definitely seems like if things start to hit the fan, it's like she's going to have the emotional conflict between the antagonists that have been set up. Whereas her husband, everything we've had indicating with him so far is that he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things go, I guess, in the future on that. But yeah, in the meantime, I 100% agree with you. It's very interesting to see every little thing that develops with her, where she does seem like this, for the most part, very thoughtful, very empathetic person. And yet we know that there is that side of her that can't connect with one of the most important people in her life, and it seems to be entirely on her end. That's why. So we'll see, I guess, how that goes. But yeah, this was nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ian Zero, I guess.
Yeah. Let's talk about characters that are really enchanting and great and have a great emotion. And now let's talk about Eden Zero, chapter 268, Ziggy versus Void. Was that a dichotomy reference? Yes. So we open, Void's like, that woman is not my brother, and you're not my father. Because we got the big reveal last time that Void is the child of Rebecca and Shiki, except he's a robot. Except, as we'll see later in this chapter, he has a human version, like a human appearance. So, whatever. I guess, we know that robots in this universe can't. Ziggy's just like, yeah, I think it's kind of annoying to think that I had sex with that woman as well, and like we have a kid who sucks this much. But the truth is, like, you are our kid, and I bear some responsibility in having to destroy you. Basically, neither of us should be in this world, so this is where we both cease to exist. So they have a big punch, and like.
They have a big punch.
I don't know what else I can really say to that. There's like a little panel. They punch and like a whole bunch of stuff happens, and they use their gravity to pull, like, what is it? Asteroids? Isn't asteroids when it's just floating, meteorites when it's actually coming down?
Yes.
I think so. So they're pulling asteroids towards them, and they break apart, and then Ziggy uses gravity to throw some at Void, and Void uses his speed to get away, and he says, I have power over time. All you have is gravity. I'm your superior. And he punches Ziggy in the back. And maybe my favorite moment of this chapter happens where Ziggy says, maybe I do only have gravity, but I know how to use it. And he just punches Void really hard. I guess that's what he means.
That's how you use gravity, by punching.
You have no idea how to use gravity. Meh. I know we made fun of it in Fairy Tail when it happened as well, where it's like, it's time for my ultimate attack. Fire. Punch. Like, it's so uncool.
Oh, how is he? Wow, he's got distortion magic. How is he going to use it? Bah!
It's just so funny to me. He's like, let me show you how to really use gravity magic. It just hits him really hard in the head. It's not even like it couldn't even been a character who was just like, he used his gravity to hold me in place or anything. Nothing like that. He literally just like, what if I channeled a bunch of gravity to my fist and punched you? So Void's helmet is broken. And we see his face, and he basically does just look like time skip Shiki with like slightly longer hair. Like, remember when there was a period after the time skip where Shiki looked like he was going to be a super cool, serious, mature character for like 5 chapters?
Right.
And then he just became the same character he had before, except he had like a scar. He looks like he was before he got that, so he's a little more serious. Cut away, Nick, because we're this is our Deku versus Shigaraki fight. We're gonna have to keep cutting back and forth between this and 1,000 other things for a while. We go back to the Eden Zero. The ship's still going to explode. They need the other codes, but Valkyrie and Witch haven't finished their fights yet. But all of the shining stars like pick up a signal, and they're like, oh. It means Master Ziggy is here. And Witch gives this like look. She's like, that means
he's alive.
He's alive. It's like a little bit like, hold on a moment. Do you guys have a thing, or for you is this just like a daddy kink? Like,
no, Ziggy's... I'm his mommy, remember?
Yeah, Ziggy's yeah. Very weird. I feel like Wizard responds, he's like, what? But no, he's like, what? He's already fighting Void. This can't be. There's dialogue here. It sucks. Which is basically just like, you were created by Ziggy. Why are you going against him? He's like,
that doesn't matter right now.
Yeah, because an AI chatbot told me not to. So they're just fighting each other. They're throwing effects. Flashback time, Nick. We go 20,000 years ago. Their counterparts themselves in this world are sitting on like a rooftop sort of like patio and looking over the city, and it's so beautiful. And Wizard's like, oh, won't you marry me? And Witch is like, oh yes. She doesn't do the hand thing. I want to note, like, that was a very particular like little gesture where she's like,
I'm sorry, I was thinking
back.
about how my I'm sorry. I was thinking about how my son figure is alive.
Yeah. She's like...
What were you saying?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll marry you, I guess. I just want to note, it's very different reactions. Cut to the present. Witch gets knocked down. Wizard's like, I'll destroy you. I guess I should note... No, it happens later. It's such a weird sequence of stuff here. He's like, I'm going to destroy you. He attacks Witch in a panel that means nothing, but if you blink and you miss it, Witch loses her arm in this. One of her arms pops off. Oh, God, the carnage, the humanity. If only we had a ship that could magically heal people. We do. Wizard also lost his arm in this exchange. So I guess, both arms are lost there.
They just kind of, like, swung their arms at each other, and they kind of, like, just, like, the fleshiest, flabbiest parts of their arms decided to break each other off, like two katanas clashing. Yeah,
very cool. We go back to the flashback just so they can say, I love you, and then Wizard is like, I'll unlock my forbidden ether I've always had and never brought up until now. The ultimate magical attack. And Witch is like, I'll show you the power of the shield, radical fields. And basically he launches all of his, I don't know, death lasers. Who gives a shit? And she summons a bunch of little shields that ricochet all the laser attacks. I guess none of them were ever going to hit her because none of them are coming directly at her. But she deflected all of them. And she's like, no, you. And then he gets hit with all the death lasers and he's all hurt. And, I guess she thinks this because it'd be stupid if it was in the flashback, but she's like, perhaps somewhere in all the universes, there's a world where we didn't need to fight. And it's fucking stupid. This is supposed to be romantic, but this is nothing.
I want to just clarify that we had a series of flashbacks to this bygone era where we knew that all of the stars, the shining stars and dark stars, were all based on people from this era.
Yes.
And one of the chapters that introduced it had a big thing, made a big deal about how in the past life, the witch and wizard were engaged. So what does that mean? They were engaged. Oh wow, they were in a relationship. Wow, what was that? What does that mean? Well, it means they were engaged.
Yeah. What if we saw it again, though?
Hey, you guys want to see the story about how witch and wizard became engaged?
It's very interesting in that
they got engaged.
In that there are no details. Where are they? Who knows? Was there anything romantically personable about this engagement? No. But they did get engaged on a rooftop.
How did they fall in love? Well, they got engaged, obviously.
Yeah.
This is so bad that it made me want to do this. So, guys, I know that like we're trying to make our final decisions because the WMR Supplementary Awards are coming to a close soon. We got to make our final votes for this. I am going to declare that there is a new category open for voting.
Whoa!
Get your nominees in. It doesn't matter what they are because this one wins. Worst relationship of the year. You can nominate whoever you want. Just know that if you vote for any of those nominees, you're wrong.
Throwing it away. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. This is bad. This is very, very bad writing. As it's been brought up, we already knew they got engaged, so I don't know why we're trying to dramatically tie it together that they got engaged at some point. Especially if there's nothing interesting about the engagement. Like, truly, like, I don't understand how Hiro thinks this sort of storytelling is done. This feels like I don't know. There's some XY axis that are just like shitty relationships, and like on one end you're like, oh, well, this is a toxic this is Harley Quinn and Joker. This is a toxic relationship you shouldn't aspire to. But it's like another bad quadrant as well, where you're like, if you aspire to this, you're boring and stupid. I feel this is mean, and I'm sorry I'm being mean, but I don't understand. Like, there's nothing to this. There's absolutely nothing interesting about their relationship. We've never been given a reason for why these two love each other, so there's no inherent tragedy to it other than like I'm being told like, oh, they were lovers in another world. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously there's a lot of tropes that use this. Like, in my mind, immediately I'm going to like the Everywhere Everything All at Once, where it's like, oh, in another universe I would love to have just done laundry with you and taxes, in like the one universe where they are together. And you're like, that's like something to build off of and like create an emotion. This is just a thing of just like, if only we didn't have to fight each other and we could love each other in a generic heteronormative way. You're a woman robot with a robot vagina, I guess. I'm a robot man with a robot penis, presumably. Shouldn't we be together? Like, it's just terrible.
It's awful, and I hate it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And never look back. Cipher Academy, Chapter 52. It's we start this off.
Are we not going to give the title? The betrayal of the betrayal gets all the blame.
Sorry. The betrayal of a betrayal!
Come on!
All the blame!
There should be a category. Ninja, we're going to put you through the dock at this point. There should be a separate category just called the Best Cipher Academy chapter title, because there are some real goods, I feel like, out there.
Yeah, we don't have Bleach chapter titles anymore, so we gotta find them where that we can.
Yeah.
So Yosaimura and Anonymity Requested, who of course have been going through the metaverse since they met up, have run into Shakunage Hakanage, the leading private of class 1F, which of course is the torture class, so she has the bag over her head. They are on floor B242, presidential jet floor. They're flying in a jet. And Hakanage says, like, yeah, I'm scheduled for a meeting with Anonymity Requested. So Yosamura, get out of the way. And Yosamura just says, like, no, people in my family can't stand not crushing evil plots. We break out in hives. We
can't. We fall apart, yeah.
So Hakanage starts to be like, why are you here with this person? This isn't what we discussed. And Anime requests like, hey, you should know me by now. There's no promise I can't break. And she makes a cheeky little winky. I'm not
Very cool.
So Shakanage says, all right, in that case, board game code battle, Kingfisher Reverse Eye. And so they're going to play Reverse Eye on this game board, but instead of playing with regular pieces, they're going to play with coins. And they're coins that are from all over the world that have different values on them. And so instead of just you count up all the tokens, it's you've got to get the greatest amount of currency overall, which is and I should say numerical amounts, not like the most valuable currency. There are some coins here which have a ridiculously high number to them because of the relative values of the currency means that they can still be on coins. So they go over those rules, and then Yosamura agrees to it. But she also says to Anonymity, like, hey, bystanders often see the game better than the players do, so would you mind sitting out until we settle this? And Anonymity requested says, like, oh, you must really trust me, teehee. And Yosamura is like, yeah, of course I trust you. I trust both in your betrayal and your double crossing. All right. Well, these two understand each other. I hope that they get married one day. Like,
aww, yeah, I do kind of ship them now that you say it.
So Yosamura sits down after Anonymity leaves and asks, like, okay, what are the terms here beyond just like the loser gets banned for the labyrinth? And Shakanage says, nothing. I would never attempt to torture a Cipher soldier who was picked based on their personality alone. So, not so subtle dig there for why she's on Iroha's team. But they start playing. We get some, commentary from the peanut gallery who was observing stuff. And they note that, like, hey, a big thing, of course, is the fact that, you want to get your valuable coins in the corners because then they can't be captured and you're guaranteed to have a really high number on your side. Then we get a ridiculous 2-page spread of the two of them flipping coins and placing them down. It's like flipping them does not help you. It does not help you. It's also pointed out that they can't look in the jar to pick out what coin they pick out. But everyone watching it recognizes that that's not really a thing because you're allowed to feel the coin with your thumb. And so for people who are, such ridiculous code breakers as these two, clearly they would be able to distinguish what they are immediately. Sure. So they start pointing those out, and Kagoe points out, like, oh my god, there's a ridiculous, one here that's 50 Canadian dollars. It could flip the value of the entire board. But then all of a sudden, Yosamura looks at the board and she realizes, like, wait a minute, all 4 corners are full. I was sure that there was a corner that was still open. And Shakanage says, fairness is nice and all, but if you let yourself become bound to strange rules, you're enslaving yourself. Closing your eyes in the middle of a game and treating progress along the way like it doesn't matter. Only an idiot would follow rules like that. Essentially, oops. You still with me, Quinn?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just vibing. This is a good chapter. I'm letting you kind of talk before I go nuts on some of my thoughts.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry, your video died for me for a second, so I was like, what? But basically, while they were closing their eyes to concentrate, Shakanage straight up just cheated and slipped a really valuable coin onto the board, which is a million morgue.
It's so fucking
Oh no,
funny.
one morgue. And then we are told just how valuable morgue are in like actual terms of like relativity, which is the total value of all money on Earth is equal to approximately 200 quadrillion yen, which is equal to infringement upon foreign exchange laws % of the 50 billion morgue on the final floor of the Cipher Academy metaverse. Meaning that the amount that they have that could come out from the cryptocurrency is more valuable than all currency on the planet.
Yeah, no matter what way you're shaking this, they're like, this is This is more money than the world has otherwise.
It's so
Which
high that
there's
not even a number.
There was a certain section of people that truly believed this was how cryptocurrency was going to go.
There was.
Yeah.
Yes. There still is. You're right. Yes. Diamond hands, guys. Oh man, it'll totally be valuable for you. When she says how much this coin is worth, it's not even given a number. It's censored because it's supposed to be a ridiculously high amount. So this essentially means because she's placed it in the corner and slipped it in there, Yosamura cannot win. Yes. All the other values on the board would not come even close to it. She could win back the entire board and would still not be able to win. So Shakanage says look, that leader is the real fool, referring to Iroha. What did he want to do with all that money again? Stop all the world's wars? Don't make me laugh. The only thing that fortune can create is inheritance wars. But Yosamura says look, we still got to try. I understand why you're trying to do this too, because she establishes when she's talking about all this value that Shakanage wants to bury all of this currency. It would crash all of the world's economies essentially if it came out by causing hyperinflation.
Yes.
But they get back to the board and she's like, all right, why don't you just give up like a good sport? And Yosamura says, I will not give up. Secondly, Iroha Zakakun is not a fool. And thirdly, although I may not be able to close the gap, I still may be able to turn it upside down. And she stands up, and there's a beautiful 2-panel sequence of Shakanage's head tilting to the side, and then flipping all the way upside down as we cut outside of the plane, and it's doing an lateral roll because an enemy requested went to the cockpit and took it over so that she could do this. And flips the plane upside down, and she shouts out, I know I always betray and double-cross people, but this time I'm actually turning something upside down! And
she's so excited.
Yosamura, the hero that she is, catches Shakanage when they fall onto the ceiling. And the entire board flipped upside down, which means all of the coins on the board have flipped upside down too, which means that the more belongs to her instead.
And so fucking funny.
Yeah. So Shakanage says, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and cheating for cheating, huh? And Yosamura says, nope, this is fairness for a foul play. Your evil law created the possibility of the same sort of thing happened to you. In other words, you left yourself open. So, it's all fair. What dorks.
Such a dork, yeah.
And so Shakanage realizes, God, this person's not worth torturing. What a waste of good talent. Nah, of good character. A shame you have to remain buried in Class A. And she fades off and logs out, having lost the match. And enemy requested, thinks to herself, if this had happened before that leading private battle we had, she probably wouldn't have been able to, have accepted her that way. Wouldn't have been able to accept Shakanage. She wouldn't have been able to ask me for help. We only won this because we're Class A. And we cut very briefly to where Iroha and Ensa are on a bowling floor.
Yeah, the bowling
okay.
Floor. There's a lot of bowling related codes to break, Nick.
Yep. And so Yosamura wins, and she is referred to as the popularity monster. And so good for her. What a fun chapter.
What an extra fucking chapter. I love this Calvin Ball sort of shit they start playing in this game. Because, already I'm, kind of intrigued. Oh, okay, you get it. Reverse eye with coins. There's some interesting stuff going on here. Gotta flip some stuff, do all that. I get it. And, them going over the top flipping things. But the idea, we're gonna close it and she just sneaks a fucking Bitcoin onto the board. And she's like, it counts. What do you want me to do? And I don't know why. The flipping, spinning the plane over to just flip all the coins is so dumb, but so fucking cool of an idea that I was like, yeah, 100%. This is some Yu-Gi-Oh! Ass shit.
Absolutely.
Where it's I throw the dice at you so hard it breaks in half. I rolled a 7. And you're like, sure, dog. I guess. But that's why I love this series the most, is as it gets, as crazy and weird as all this stuff is. It just works. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It also helps that they were playing, Othello instead of mahjong, so we could tell what was happening.
Yeah, I wasn't sitting there like, yeah, of course. With this particular combo, 10 bajillion points.
Sure.
Yes.
I'm keeping up with you, yes.
And that tile is blank, so of course it's the king. And the king gets to go in whatever castle he wants. And he's the king of the castle. You can make the tile dance. You get 200 brillion points.
This is like devolving into like a bad wrestling promo.
Suffering succotash, Nick. Good
All
shit.
right.
Really fun chapter.
New manga stretch time. First off, green.
I love the new manga stretch, Nick.
Oh, I love it too. Isn't it great? This is only gonna get better from here.
Yeah, nowhere to go but up.
Oh man, and I'm betting that they're gonna hit their max value right in November. So last time Haku, after finally acknowledging that he wanted to get better at golf, but having the problem of how do I afford to go to this course, was offered a job. And so he accepted it immediately. And so he is introduced to all the other part-time employees there. Oga, of course, is there, and she's not happy about this development. It's like she doesn't hate Haku, but she doesn't like him still, and now he's going to be around a lot more. As a result of her reacting to his presence, I haven't memorized her name yet, but the woman who's kind of in charge of things says, "Oh, you know each other? Okay." So Oga, like off panel, like introduces Haku to everything. It's like, "Did you get all that? All right, you get it. That's the job. You done. You got it, Mr. Yaesaki." And Haku just says, like, "I'm sorry. I know you don't really like me. It's just for the summer. It should just be for the summer." And she's like, "It better be."
Yeah, for your sake, bud.
But Oga just, straight up like, if this guy's a slacker, I'm kicking him to the curb. He's not going to get to stick around. And of course, immediately, Haku is going around. He's very friendly with everyone. He's very responsive to people. Very nice. Very attentive. Very thorough in all of like cleaning and everything like that. And of course, afterwards, the woman says to Oga, like, "Oh, he's got a real knack for this." She's like, "Fuck. God damn it, I'm stuck with him now."
Fuck.
So she goes on break and also is told, like, "Oh, make sure you tell Haku that he can go on his break too." And Haku had kind of like was getting so close to a customer that he was like getting to practice too, and he's like, "Stop hitting the customer's balls. You're not allowed to do that. Stop it."
I do like that the guy was like, "No, it's okay."
Members of the staff. We meet two that don't really leave much of an impression just yet, and some of them kind of like accuse him of like trying to get close to Oga, and Oga's like, "We're not tight with each other. I hate him." What kind of weirdo goes and applies to the same job as their classmate? That's weird. But then we are introduced to another member of the staff, Chikara Hagio. Who, guys, one of my favorite filler episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is one where there is the captain of the tennis club, because the Duel Academy has a tennis club for some reason.
They're like, well, in case you want, when you go to...
He's in love with Asuka, and he thinks that Judai is too, and is just like really passionate about sports and stuff, and he hates him. And that's basically the exact premise of this chapter for a bit, except then it's like, no, because Greens is really good. There's more to it than that, like immediately in terms of establishing his character and everything. So yeah, Chikara, he's obviously in love with Oga. He gets shoujo vision of her. Flowers appear when he looks at her and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, you look so beautiful." Yeah, thanks. Good for you, Oga. Just take it in stride. And then immediately, goes towards Haku, and one of their other coworkers immediately realized, like, it's my chance to stir some shit up. "Hey, did you know that he goes to the same school as Oga, and they're really close to each other?" And Chikara is like, "You're my enemy! Ha! War! I'll fight you through golf!" And he's just like constantly giving Haku the stink eye whenever they're around each other from that point on. But Haku's like, "Oh boy, I get to use the range now that my job is done. Cool. Oh, and I can use the gloves that Oga gave me and stuff." He starts going after the ball, and again, when he finds his rhythm, he's good, but he has a really hard time finding it. His swings are going everywhere. He's missing the golf ball. And then Chikara is just like, "Is this part of your plan to get closer to Oga? This guy is no threat to me. Oga is only interested in people who are good at golf." But the longer Haku goes at it, the longer that he's terrible. Chikara's just like, "What's with this guy? What? He sucks so much, and he's not getting any better." And so he goes to Haku and is like, "What? Come on, are you really enjoying like sucking at this?" And Haku's like, "Hey, I do like it. You know, just hitting the ball it's a really big achievement for me." And Shikara's like, "Maybe I've misjudged this guy completely. He's really enthusiastic about golf. Maybe he's really passionate about it." And then, Haku says all the right stuff. He's like, "I'm landing hits more often. I'm making progress very steadily." Shikara's like, "He might not be such a bad guy." And then Oga, of course, comes and talks to him later on. And Haku is like, I wore a hole through my glove. I'm sorry. It's the gloves you got me, and I ruined them." And, of course, Chikara's like, "Why are you apologizing to her?" "Oh, she bought me these gloves." Oh! She collapses to his knees. But Oga says, like, gloves are meant to be worn through. They're disposable. Pro golfers wear through them all the time really, really quickly. And Chikara's like, "Miss Oga, if you had given me a glove, I would have framed it and hung it up on the wall." And Oga's like, that's completely defeats the purpose of me giving you a glove.
No point in having a glove then, bud.
I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear you?
Yeah, everyone else can.
I can't hear you. Uh-oh.
At some point, your audio got disconnected.
You're moving your lips and I can't hear you. Oh, yeah. This is me. Something's wrong with my computer. Hang on.
Don't worry, I've been dropping great jokes, or like the start of them, for a little bit. And I want to keep entertaining the people. What did... Shit, I don't know jokes. I guess... Oh, do you want me to... I don't know why I was about to ask you a question.
I got it back. Okay.
Oh, hey, there we go.
Sorry about that.
No, Nick, don't worry. I entertained the people. They'll say I didn't, but I did. I've kept them very entertained.
Don't anyone lie about what she's
done. Yeah, no. Say I told really, really fucking good jokes. God damn it. I can't lose this.
Oh, God. Yeah, and anyway, Oga, notes like, I have to get a new glove like every month. And of course, like, he wore through his in a single week. How the hell many balls has this guy been hitting? And Chikara's like, I mean, even if he has been hitting the ball a lot, he still sucks. Oga's like, yes, he definitely sucks.
Yes. We agree on this point exactly.
Only this one. Nothing else you have said. But he will improve. His efforts are not in vain. And she, kind of is like looking at Haku and thinks, I would like him to get fired and go away. But I do wonder what keeps him going. Because, God, he does suck. Meanwhile, some onlookers have been watching Haku, and they're like, "Man, he does really suck. He's just like throwing his money away here, coming out here. What a waste of everyone's time." Oh, and now he's looking over at us because we're talking about him. And Haku is like, "Oh, I'm kind of like embarrassing myself here. I guess I really can't help it. I really am bad at this." And then someone says, "He might as well quit." And Haku's getting like really, really self-conscious now, and like he hits a ball and it kind of like just stutters off. And now you've done it. Oga is really, really pissed about this, and she goes up to them and says, "Excuse me, sirs, your laughter is bothering the other golfers. Please keep it down. Also, I've been watching you. You're in no position to be criticizing someone else for being bad."
I love that. It's one thing like, oh, she came to his defense. And then to just be like, also, you guys kind of suck shit too, so I kind of wouldn't start this if I were you.
And in the most satisfying moment, they're like, "I'm a paying customer here. How dare you speak to me?" She says, "So what? I work here. I could get you all banned from the rage."
I don't know. I don't think anyone made it a reaction, but I almost want that face to be a reaction for a channel. They'll just like the disgust, like, "Oh, isn't that cool?" Anybody who's worked in like any kind of customer service just wants to give that face all the time to people. You're like, oh, that's so fun and cool of you, but who gives a shit?
So they run off and are like, I'm gonna file a complaint against you. Well, I'm sure this happened before to her. Haku thanks Oga, and she's like, don't look at me like that. That should make you feel bad. If you want to get better, think about how you never want to get mocked again. But if you're only doing this for fun, stop worrying about what anyone else says about you. Aw, that's nice. So, Haku thinks a bit, and he thinks about, like, hey, on that first day, maybe what the guys said about me would have bothered me. But now I don't really think it bothers me at all. I wonder what's different between now and then. Chikara, meanwhile, smashes a drive because he's been watching this entire thing go down. And he says, I'm really mad. Why is she paying attention to you? And he says, golf is freedom. Anybody can play it. All are welcome. But it's another story when it comes to Miss Oga. Your pitiful skills. You're a terrible match for her. I refuse to accept it. Fight me. You can have as big a handicap as you want. If I lose, I'll quit my job here. And one of their coworkers says to Oga, the boys are fighting because of you. She says, gross. Good for you.
Yeah, I like that. That's exactly. She's like, that's disgusting. It is not my problem.
Yep. Haku is like, wow, you're so cool, Hakio. I feel like I get where you're coming from, but isn't this kind of unfair? Because, like, if I lose, I feel like I shouldn't stay here either. But I don't want to lose. And there's a beat between them, and he says, all right, I'll do it. How could I say no? I am kind of intruding on your territory. And Chikara's just like, he is a good guy, damn it.
Yeah, you're like, I don't like that you're fucking agreeable, dickhead. It doesn't make it fun to do this.
You really are a good guy, but I can't have you be here. This is a fun chapter. I like that Chikara has managed to make a strong impression all of a sudden. I feel like he would be a nice welcome addition to the core cast of this series to have him around. Because he's weird, but in a nice way.
Yeah. So, first and foremost, let's get the inevitable out of the way. This is the third chapter of Green Green Greens. We have to discuss whether or not we want to keep talking about it on the podcast. It won my MVP the first week and chapter of the week the second week. So, I am obviously in favor of keeping this series around. Nick, do you want to keep talking about Green Green Greens?
If I cared more about golf, I would have an appropriate golf pun to make here. But I don't. So yes.
Yeah,
so
we just hit a birdie, everybody. A birdie, I think, is good.
It is good, but I don't. Whatever. I don't know if it's good pun. Bogey, sand trap, Tiger Woods,
wedge.
I don't know why that's funnier.
So, all right, we're gonna keep reading Green Green Greens and drop 2 on ice. That's we agreed. Now, we'll talk about it if that's gonna be the thing. But we are gonna keep Green Green Greens. It's a really, really fun chapter. I like Oga's different expressions, which is weird because she generally has like one. But when she's annoyed, she has really, really good expressions. I like this lead. He's still, like, he's lost a little bit of, like, the fun charisma, like, dickhead charisma he had early on. But he's replaced it with, like, a genuine enthusiasm for what he's doing. Like, I really like how he's like, whoa, you're so cool, Hagi. And it's not sardonic and shitty. He's legitimately like, you're a very cool dude. And he's like, thank you. I am awesome for being in a weird unrequited love interest relationship with this high school person that you know.
And Oga's like, I think you're both gross.
He's like, I think both of you suck. Can you both get fired from this place so I don't have to work with either one of you? I like that, but I like the enthusiasm is infectious. I really like the moment of like him getting picked on and Oga just walking over and dressing those guys down. And again, I love that she has the freedom to be like, fuck off. I don't give a shit if you're paying customers. I work here. I'll see to it that you never come to this place again if I want.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
Yeah. Let's continue on.
Time to keep the spirits high, Nick.
Yeah.
Going up. What's the next awesome, cool series we're going to talk about?
It's Reddit's favorite manga, Kagurabachi.
Oh.
Chapter 13, Elite. And this is about Sojo fighting the cops. And
my two favorite great evils finally colliding. It's like when you have a heel versus heel wrestling match. You're like, can I boo both of you?
So we find out that Chihiro had given the cops a bunch of tips because he's a little fucking snitch about Cloud Gouger's abilities, which are ice, water, and lightning. And of course, lightning is the big, powerful offensive one. But they need to have a strategy to deal with it. So essentially, the strategy is try to overwhelm him with attacks so that he thinks that you're desperate to prevent him from using the lightning. But then when he does use the lightning, you surround him with water so that it disperses and also attacks him. And then it's like, oh, but he'll use the water to disperse and attack and stuff. But then they use a thing, another thing to repel the water from the ground so that it doesn't get on them and stuff. And that'll buy them time.
What's wild is you're cutting through like 8 pages of this manga. Like, this is one of the weirdest paced chapters in that every time something happens, we cut to whatever, Mr. Kagurabachi. I don't remember this character's name. We cut to him being like, this is why you would do this. Like, you're going to get attacked by lightning. Like, they get attacked by lightning. He's like, oh, this is why you get attacked by lightning. And it's like the least satisfying way to do this. Like, it keeps creating this start-stop suspense.
No, Quinn, some people think that the key to coordinating a good battle is flow and pacing. Those people are wrong.
Yeah.
It is...
What if my battle had the flow of a dubstep song where it just keeps starting and stopping and doing beat drops and shit that you're like, okay, cool, thanks, I guess.
Yep.
This is wildly unsatisfying.
In the last 3 pages of the manga, we find out that Chihiro got some information out of that one guard that he was interrogating, which is like, yeah, so the girl is locked up in the lab. It's on the other side of a big chamber, 2 floors underground, but there's sorcerers standing guard, so you're badly injured, you're going to get torn to pieces. There's sorcerers coming that are going to be in your way and stuff. But Chihiro's like, I'm in the shadows, lurking, and he remembers something that his dad said, which is the enchanted blades of a true realm, beyond the theoretical. Its source material, Datenseki, is a natural material. I can't really put this in words, but theoretically, its limitations can completely transform based on its holder. Okay?
Yeah, don't worry, Nick. You could fucking domain expansion your sword. The series might be on its way to getting canceled. It's a real rat's race between like 3 series right now.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, so who knows, but it didn't have a great ranking last week. I think it was last week. This week it got a color page, so it wasn't really ranked. So we shall see. There's so much that's just stupid about this chapter. They reveal at the start, they're like, actually, there's a 6th member of our group who's been doing reconnaissance. He's always been here. Don't worry. We're going to lift you into the sky. Let's keep bouncing back and forth between all these things that are going on. One part of the conversation takes place in the men's room, which is like a fun detail to hear. Like, one of the members of your team is a woman, so she's just not there for this part of the debrief or something. Like, it's just stupid. I don't know how to explain it. This chapter's not satisfying as like a battle. This concept could have worked if you just let it flow until it reached like the point where it looked like, oh, they're definitely fucked, and then you cut over to Kagurabachi himself saying like, this is why you're gonna do all these things, you're gonna get the upper hand, and then do the turnabout. But also, I'm not excited at all about the concept of like, don't worry, let's reveal our cool new, our Bankai thing for this series. All of our characters will get one. It'll be super cool.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Good stuff, in parentheses derogatory. new Exorcist, Nick. This one's great, right?
It's a bizarre feeling when going out of Kagurabachi because New Exorcist follows it. And I know that this chapter was stupid, but at the same time, I'm like, thank God we're talking about New Exorcist instead.
I think there's more to make fun of in this.
It is.
But this is still also a dumb chapter.
It is. First off, the girls are playing Uno at the beginning, and there's a weird sequence where Suo is like, Uno. Oh, by the way, it's chapter 30, the first mission. And she touches it, goes, ah, you're really good at this. And Suo's like, ha, hilarious reaction, Tome, ha. And then Shiroha looks at her and is like, drat. And Suo's like, ah, it's also a great reaction, ha. Okay. So,
I mean, she hasn't won. She just called Uno. Like,
right.
It's not done yet, you know? Game's not over, kids. You gotta stick with it to the very end. Yeah, this should have been their next lesson. You have to play Uno. It's about never giving up and annoying your friends.
Yeah, that is what it's about, yes.
Don't worry. Somehow it'll make you more drift compatible and we can go to new mini-map locations.
Gakuro comes out to be no fun. It's like, everyone needs to go to bed because we have to get up early tomorrow. And Shitotsu is, I guess, right back to hating her brother when I think the entire point of the last two chapters was the need to get over that. But she's like, yeah, around him. And then they're like, oh, we're going on a big trip. It's a big field trip. And it's like, they're going on a mission, not a field trip, though. They have to go through a transportation device and stuff.
But Nick, this is a series that has decided to be two things at once. It is an intense battle series, but also a slice of life harem manga. So you know you can't fault them. It's a field trip / dangerous suicide mission.
I'm really looking forward to having my can of soup ice cream for this.
Yeah, I was about to be like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to try these ketchup potato chips, but they have that, and monsters actually like them, so. Sorry, Frank.
So, Mue appears, okay, and she says, like, you guys gotta go and get a thing. You gotta go and get a thing. Okay, cool.
I didn't realize she did. In my mind, I was like, I must have just forgotten. But she does just say something and certain object.
Yeah, it's important. Also, there's a nice river and no dangerous wild animals in the area. Those are the only things you guys will have to worry about.
That's how nature works, Nick.
Right. So, they're like, oh, okay. You guys are going to have to go for 2 days and 1 night. And Nue's like, I'll give you some camping gear. And it's like, I guess it does kind of sound like a field trip. Anyway, so they all go to bed in the dorm. Shitotsu and Gakuro sit down first. And Shitotsu's like, hey, Gakuro, which one are you going after? What? You know, Suo or Shiroha, which one are you going after? No! You have made a misjudgment, younger sister. I am not romantically pursuing either of them. We are merely friends, and I am their captain. Yeah, but which one do you want to do? No, that you see, if I were to confess to one of them, I am so pathetic that nothing could come of it.
Every character has to be like, no. I think they'd absolutely love you, despite how pathetically uncharismatic and like anti-charming you are. The girls love that.
Yeah, and she touches like, nah. I've been around you and these girls for a day, and I can tell that they're both into you.
Yeah,
I guess. So then Gakuro's like, you're lying! Good night! Just the bed.
I wish he just... Like, he does scream. He's like, this conversation's done! Goodbye!
He goes to bed, and then when he wakes up, he's got to rush to the bus stop, and Shiroha and Suo are waiting there, and they're both in fancy outfits. And they're like, which one of us have you chosen to go on a date with? And Gakuro's like, my worst nightmare! Wakes up. Being loved by other people! What a horror!
It feels like I should just be laughing along with this series, but I am also just like, this is so dumb. I don't like it's so wild that like a month ago they were like, the captain of the 5th Division would like to discuss with you the parameters for sealing the fucking extra evil of the, and then like now we're at this point, it's like, which girl do I like more? It's just fucking, the whiplash is wild in this.
I also want to point out that this is a fantasy scenario for Gakuro where he's imagining the girls like are all dressed up for a date. But the outfits that they're wearing, although very much more fanciful than we've seen either of them wear, they do look like it's like you could go out on a date wearing this and go out and do things. Pretty comfortable shoes, comfortable for the weather. Gakuro's wearing a full 3-piece suit. So even in his own dream, he doesn't understand how to do this.
He does not get the assignment. I wish I had her hat. Her hat, Suo's hat is nice. I like that.
It is a good hat. I am 100% with you. So everyone's now prepared to go out on the mission, trip, whatever. We spend like a page recapping everything for some reason, and then there's a whole thing where they open the portal. It's like, you don't need these 2 pages. Anyway, they're on the trip now. They're in the area where they've been teleported to. And so it's Gakuro, Shitatsu, Shiroha, and Suo. And so they're looking around, and all of a sudden, like, everyone kind of like feels something. Shiroha's like, there are spirits here. And Gakuro's like, didn't I say there wouldn't be any? Shitatsu says, well, they don't feel like dangerous ones, but if normally there's no spirits here, we might have an abnormal situation on our hands. They gasp, it's not going to go exactly according to plan. So, they bring up like, okay, look, we might have some problems here, but I'll leave it up to, Gakuro for what we're going to do. And Gakuro thinks about how Suo was saying like, hey, you got to trust me more from now on. And so he's like, okay, well, we don't have a phone signal. Important. And we can't leave until tomorrow. So we should just keep on going. And Shitotsu says, to make sure we don't get separated, we should each hold hands with someone else. It is so bright out right now. So she grabs Shiroha's hand, and then Suo is like, yeah, okay, let's do this, Captain. She held her hand out. And Gakuro is in his own head because Shitotsu told him, like, oh, and which one you want to date? And so he, like, grabs onto her pinky just to be as weird as possible about this. And she's like, don't do that and stuff. So he's like, oh, no, what a horrible captain I am. Yes. Somehow Gakuro falls a lot while they're on their trip. I don't know how this keeps on happening. He's just, like, taking pratfalls at every given opportunity. Eventually, they reach a waterfall, and they say there's a path that leads to the village behind the waterfall. No wonder Ms. Niue said we'd need our swimsuits.
It's so flagrant. You're like, I get it. You want to do another swimsuit chapter. Why would they need swimsuits to go through a waterfall? Don't they have the ability to, at a moment's notice, activate magical clothing that they could deactivate at will? Can't they just turn that on, walk through the waterfall, then turn it off and be in normal dry clothes again? Why would they need to pack and change into swimsuits, especially when there's no changing area around? This just feels like a long use of time.
Also, these are highly impractical swimsuits for a trip like this.
Everyone's like, I'm gonna wear the tiniest, least convenient bikini I could find.
Shitatsu's is like the only one I would say is like, yeah, I think you're kind of prepared for this trip. The others are like, no wonder what happens is basically what I'm saying. These things are frilly. Anyway, Gakuro has a creepy moment where he is like watching the girls like splash around with each other, and he's like, I'm so grateful. I've grown since the day that I couldn't look at girls in swimsuits. I can do this.
God, what a fucking loser. He's just like, I'm so glad I'm not ashamed of swimsuits anymore.
Sure. Suo's bikini starts to fall off. She's got to cover up with her arms, and Gakuro goes, "Whoa!" Suo says it's a fish because fish famously leap from the water to undo bikini tops.
I mean,
guess.
in shonen manga they do. That is famously a thing that's happened in To Love Ru, and we never learn. Might have happened in Nisekoi. I honestly can't remember.
So Shiroha turns and is like, "Hey, Fujino, could you help me with this?" Shiroha's bikini top is also fallen off, so they're both just covering up. And oh my god, spirits attack too. Oh, right now, while the two girls have their baps out and are in danger of exposing themselves to Gakuro and can't fight. Oh, everyone run away. Run inside the waterfall. Chotsu's like, I'll take care of things here. There's probably a barrier around the waterfall, so you'll be safe in there. So the Gakuro and the two other girls rush through the waterfall, and it's dark in the cavern beyond. They're like, "Are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "Ah, spider!" And they're like, "Oh my god, it's pitch black in here. Wait a minute." Gakuro's like, "What do I do next?" And the two girls are behind are surrounding him, and they're both still just like clutching themselves.
What the fuck? Tie them back on. Who just turn be like, Gakuro, look there, and then tie it back on. Like, it's not that hard. Like, they have been so hilariously turned into no, really objectifyingly damselfied or whatever you would put that word, where they're just like, no, I can't, my top has fallen off, and you're like, what? Are you not supposed to be trained fighters? What? How is this stopping you so completely?
This is absurd, and yet at the same time, back when we were on chapter 8 of this series, this felt like what every chapter of it was going to be.
Yes.
So this does not bother me as much as it could, as if this had happened just all the time. At least this is just seemingly being a once in a while kind of thing. It's still garbage, but it's not, I want to hurt myself garbage.
I'll slightly disagree in the fact that I do really dislike the fact that by the end of the chapter, these two impressive exorcist women are just like, no, I can't. Oh, hold on to Gakuro, my top. You're just like, come on. I get it. I can almost get it for a quick moment. You're like, they are teenagers. They all have feelings for this one guy. I can get it for a brief moment. But the idea that they would have gone and hid and still be like, oh, you're just like, come on. At least work together and get one girl's top back on. This is crazy. This is dumb though as well. So I don't know. Let's talk about Shadow Eliminators, a series that's again nowhere to go but up, Nick.
Absolutely. Shadow Eliminators, Chapter 2, Conflicted Wings. We established the premise last time. We kind of repeat where things are now, which is, hey, they made a club, so they'll remove the shadows from your heart. It's a way for the exorcisms to get made while also just kind of helping out people who are having personal problems. We're introduced to the character of the chapter, president of the drama club, Akio Watase-senpai. Ooh, we look at all these fans that he's got. He was on a TV show recently. People want his autograph and stuff. Yep. And Glasses Boy is like, this is a problem. The nexus of a disturbance of public morals through no fault of his own because he's so popular and gets people so excited. Okay. Also, they weren't able to put up their Shadow Eliminators poster on the bulletin board because the drama club thing got put up instead.
There's not enough space, Nick, and as we can tell by looking at the board, you can't put something on top of something else despite the fact things are on top of other things on this bulletin board.
Yep. Also, there is plenty of space if you just,
we can literally see space for both of them right there, yeah.
Giant space. Anyway, so they had to put up the poster on the Exorcist locker instead. Also, he has a key for an empty locker below it where he has, quote, the seven otherworldly tools I borrowed from my grandma.
All right.
These might as well be the 7 spirit detective
Yeah,
tools.
I was going to say, let's see if we can get more than what Yu Yu Hakusho got through.
Yeah, I don't think that it's going to have the same problem working against it, but we'll see.
It's going to have a different problem working against it, where it's like, I don't have enough time to introduce all 7. Use this for this chapter.
So that happens, and then in a very weird moment, Akio approaches them while off panel, and they're just on the roof after that. They were by the lockers. He approached them. Next panel, they're on the roof before you even see Akio before that. Anyway, it's awkward and stuff. They're talking about everything. He says that he's kind of like heard a little bit about Glasses Guy for a bit. Glasses Guy says, I've known about you since before I became a student here. You know, when I was touring the school, I actually got to watch one of the plays, and so I saw you perform. And he's like, I try not to use the word talent very often, but when I saw you, I felt like you had a talent for charming people. Okay? Akio's like, I feel like being on stage is the only way I can live up to people's expectations. Okay? Then they're like, hey, maybe there'll be a Kasane because of him. Wouldn't you know it? There is. What triggers it? A guy's disappointed in Akio's performance. Okay? So immediately Akio starts floating into the air, and his Kasane goes, you have no right to be disappointed in me. Okay? So then Glasses Guy is poking around. He hears something rattling inside the locker with the spirit tools in it. He opens it up, and there's a lantern that's shaped like a house. And when he picks it up, it darts off and tears him behind it. Exorcist Guy has started fighting the Kasane, and he's like, I'll slay it. He goes in there, and Glasses Guy is like, the bad stuff might happen where the school gets wrecked. He gets really pissed off about this, and the house lantern thing glows, and then it opens up, and a barrier appears around all of them. And the Exorcist Grandma is like, yeah, I gave it to him a bunch of other stuff because when someone with power decides to use it, it doesn't do anything. It guides the weak.
Now,
okay,
who's she talking to?
Me.
Okay. Okay. I had to sit there. I was like, we know two characters and they're not with her right now. So who is she speaking to in this moment? The answer, I guess, is yes, just us, the audience.
And so basically it establishes a barrier around all of them that prevents the real world from being affected by their combat. So Exorcist Guy immediately eliminates the Kasane, and it's fine. And Akio just thinks to himself, I was afraid of being thrown away like a piece of junk. Aw. Yeah, so that all happens. Glasses Guy's like, did I do that? When he looks down at the lantern.
God, I wish he had said that. Ain't I a stinker as the ghost gets killed?
Ooh. Akio says, I feel like I did something bad. I wasn't able to meet someone's expectations. And then Glass Guy's like, I couldn't take my eyes off you back then, senpai, during the play thing. I didn't know the first thing about theater, but I was charmed by you. You looked so free and like you were having fun when you were on stage. And Akio's like, now that I think about it, I forgot about those emotions. Just wanted to have fun. And then they present their flyer to him. Okay, so...
Man, this one was rough. This was... Like, the first chapter I thought was okay, but this is really boring. I don't know what it is, but, like, I feel like there was nothing intriguing about this kid as, like, a new character to deal with the problem. Like, it was just like, what if I didn't feel like I was good enough? And you're like, I feel like there's more you can write to his specific circumstances as an actor, and, like... build upon it and like really like do something with it, but like this is it just felt very forgettable as like a motivation for this character. Be like, yeah, what if I'm not worth all of this monster time? And you're like, man, this is nothing. There was nothing to hook onto. The coolest part of this chapter is like, oh, there's like a little miniature house that we get stuck in and we fight inside of that. I'm like, that's not like fascinating, but like it's something. It's like some kind of gimmick or something like that I thought was a little amusing. But this is just very clunky and boring. I don't know what to tell you. As I watch this, I'm like, oh, let me just replay Persona 5. Like,
as you go, if you just kind of like summarize the plot structure of the story, in terms of like, there's this exorcist that appears at school, there's this very stringent, like, disciplinary officer guy who ends up teaming up with him. He doesn't have spirit powers of his own, but he uses the spiritual tools that they have in order to help out. They do it in order to solve people's problems because their, personal problems and stress and stuff cause these malevolent spirits to appear, and so they're trying to solve people's problems while also beating up ghosts and stuff. And it's like, you hear all that and it's like, okay, yeah, sure. That's a thing that you could get a lot of mileage out of. You could have different designs for the spirits inspired by the different problems that people are having. It'd be interesting to see that, and it would be nice to mix in some action from for a shonen story, along with like the emotional problems that everyday people deal with, and tackle those kinds of things and how they do it. It was basic stuff, but it's very ripe for the picking in terms of like, yeah, you could definitely get a lot of stuff out of that. This is such bare bones treatment of that premise, though.
Yeah.
This is the most basic. Why do you have problems? Well, because people have great expectations of me, and I'm worried about not living up to them. Okay.
All right. This could be literally any character. Right. You're an actor. Is there a particular acting conflict that you run into?
Do you get some sort of stage fright? Is there some? How does it make you feel when that happens beyond bad? There's not enough meat here for that. The ideas are fine. It's just you're not doing anything with them that's not been done a billion times before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like there's any reason to read it at this point because of that.
Yeah, we have one more chapter that we need to read before we'll be able to really kind of talk about it or decide if we're going to keep it or not. But I would say right now it's not looking great. And I can also say I don't think there'll be like any kind of twist to be like, but Nick, we're going to talk about it because it's like I'm like, this seems really boring.
Yeah, not interesting to talk about so far. 2 on Ice,
but
Nick, 12.
Nowhere to go but up.
Absolutely. It's just we are in part 1 now, Quinn. Are you excited?
Where this is where I'm no longer using the whole seat. I'm paying for it, but I'm just using the edge, Nick, because I am thrilled. It's time, part 1, finally.
Chapter 12. I don't think it's romantic. Hayuma is instructed by the female twin, take it off. He takes off his shirt.
His shirt says special body on it, which
I don't like that.
I'm like,
it would be fine if he was just wearing it. The fact that he starts off wearing it and then takes it off.
Yeah, he's like, I'm taking it off. I'm like, all right. I feel like this is a shirt you got from a store where you're like, all right, I get that you have interests, maybe not on Front Street with them quite as much next time or something like that. Special body? What is that? That sounds like some kind of sexual thing.
Yes. He reveals that
I wish it just
really
said,
ripped.
I wish it just say special boy. Because I think that's a great shirt to own, as somebody being like, I'm the special boy. And you're like, good for you.
If you had a shirt that read special boy, you wouldn't be talking about dropping this series.
I would be like, oh, guy, gotta keep it up for the special boy.
Special boy. So yeah, it's been 3 months since Kisara and Hayoma formally became a pair. So he's been training up to build up muscle, and he is jacked now. And he doesn't have nipples, like many shonen protagonists.
It's actually this is a unique thing about the male physiology, I believe, is that as you get more jacked, your nipples shoot inside of you. It's actually because of testosterone, because as we know, the only sex that has a need for nipples is women. So male nipples insert themselves deeper and deeper into the body. Joe Rogan talked about this, I believe. This was I was told about this, and then I was told that if I took this brain powder he gave me, I would see into the future.
All right. Well,
I gave him my credit card.
It's a very interesting thesis, Quinn. So I will be sure to follow up and with your sources and look into the works of Professor Rogan then and see what the full text of his studies have to say about this.
It's a 6-hour-long podcast where he gets high.
For that. There is a cute joke where Natsuya, because everyone's like, "Oh wow, he's really bulked up," is like, "You're not my lovely Ed." Takes his shirt off. Oh, he's bigger. Yeah, I like that.
If you're gonna tease us with cheesecake, give us the cheesecake. Like, don't hide him in the background. All right.
Don't hide the beef. Come on.
I guess we don't get like really any fan service in this series, but I'm like, if you're gonna draw a beefcake like that, pull it to the front a little bit more. Come on.
So they're instructed like, hey, let's go over the 5 types of pairs moves. And so this is for Hayuma to review and also to, continue to introduce these concepts to the reader who doesn't know shit about pairs figure skating. And so he goes over like, lifts, twist lifts, death spiral, throw jump, and pair spin. Yay, Hayama has been paying attention and understands all this stuff. But they bring up like, hey, so you've got 2 routes in front of you. You can try and make it to debut at a competition this coming season, or you can wait a few years and actually really get your stuff down and master a routine. They warn them like, look, it's probably better if you go for option 2. Actually make sure you get properly in sync and stuff because it's risky if you don't do that. But Hayuma's like, hey, what if we were to learn everything in a half a year with option 1? How realistic would that be? And it's like, I mean, it's possible. Kisara is experienced in pair skating. We just have to train you up because, Kisara's been training at this for years. She's been practicing with Natsuya the entire time that she's been working at pair skating and stuff. So it could happen. And Hayuma says, like, look, I understand that, like, maybe I don't have a reason to rush, but Kisara's been waiting for this for years, so I want to try and do for half a year if it's possible. But they're warned like, look, if this is too dangerous, I will pull the plug. So we'll go for it, but I reserve the right to revoke that option for you. Fair enough. So they're like, okay, we're going to start off with doing a pair skin. So you 2 get on the ice, face each other, rights and lefts together. You need to hold each other's hands. As soon as Kisara offers her hands to him, immediately Hayuma's like, and he's taken off his game by it immediately. And as they start to rotate and she's drawn in closer to him, he pushes away and falls on his ass, which of course is very dangerous to do when you're on freaking skates. And immediately everyone realizes what's happened, and Kisara is like, what? Come on, freaking get up. And Hayuma realizes, oh, this entire time I've been preparing, I've been seeing Kisara as that girl. So I froze her mentally as just a 3rd grader and didn't have any romantic inclinations towards her in any way. But now she's like, oh, she's like a teenage girl. And that's like, being physically close to her is kind of discomforting. Kisara immediately is like, I thought you weren't like just interested in doing this for girls or romance. And that was one of the things I liked about you. Now you're just any other boy. And I freaking hate that. So she storms off after an intermission is called for. So they each go off with one of the coaches, but before they
part, that the coaches need to make sure to know who to go with, so they each have a little sign, girls, boys, and I'm like, I like how you pluralized it, despite the fact there's
only one of each.
There's only one of each to grab.
Before Kisara can get away, Hayuma's like, look, I don't think it's romantic. I was surprised.
What are you doing? I'm the special boy.
I'm the special boy, body boy.
I have my special body, boy body.
Yeah. So Kisara's like, whatever the hell you're going through, freaking fix it. So they go off with each other. She says, like, look, people have always kind of acted weird around me because I'm a girl, and I hate that. It's very vague. It's like, you're in figure skating. Like, is it because of the stuff that your senpai said? He was just an asshole, but you don't know.
But that is, I mean, it is an important context. We didn't really discuss last week's chapter, but we found out an old mentor of Kisara's is like just a straight up misogynist. Like,
yes.
So, like,
he's a sports misogynist and an actual misogynist too.
Yeah, so,
mostly because he hates people.
It might make sense why she has a little bit of baggage about, being seen as a woman and people not reacting as well to that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the boys are talking, and Hayuma says, like, "Hey, Natsuya, have you ever, like, been nervous before?" He's like, He says, "No, it's fine." But he does establish, like, I mean, my partner is my sister, so that's never been a problem for me. Thank God! So he says, like, yeah, you do seem like you're really shaken up by this, but, like, you and Kisara, you're acting like normal middle schoolers. So I kind of figured you would just be ready to, like, deal with that. He gets a message from Kazutora, which is like, okay, let's get back to it. And Kazutora says, like, look, Natsuyu just got a message from a college classmate. They practice outside of school with us, so why don't you join in on this? Hayuma's got a problem because he's embarrassed, but this pair is practicing under even more awkward circumstances, so maybe you guys could learn from them. And we cut over to that pair who are practicing. They're clearly, teenagers at least. And as they're skating together, they're like, okay, let's do this and stuff. And then we get inside their heads, and the guy is like, oh my God, why is she dressed in a sports bra? This is so awkward for me. And we receive narration from Kazutora, which is, yeah, it's Yuni and Kotaro. They were a couple who broke up 3 months ago.
The funniest thing Two on Ice has ever done is this last panel where he is like, don't cry. And she's like, I need new lip balm.
She's fine. She's totally fine with it. Not a problem.
It's real Homer Simpson like flipping through the air on a skateboard. He's like, I could save money if I bought the nuts separately and then mix them at home. So I appreciate that for a moment. I think this is like the most excited I've been at Two on Ice in a while, is like the idea of like interacting with characters that have a personality, which sounds harsh. And I guess it's meant to. But like, it feels like there'll be something to like interact with and bite onto with these two characters.
Yes.
So hopefully it can drive some personality out of our leads as well.
This is definitely like a first for, this type of obstacle that needs to be overcome. And I'm interested to see how things go with it.
Sure. Yeah.
The Elusive Samurai, chapter 137.
You can't catch him.
Can't catch him. Drawn lots, 1338. We get kind of just like an establishment of geography and stuff. Anyway, Sadamune, hey, he's back in the series. He's here to meet up with the leaders of the Ashikaga army to decide what they're going to do. And everyone who sees him enter is like, oh, he's probably going to lead the Ashikaga forces. He defeated Nita Yoshisada in their battle. So Sadamune establishes like, okay, look, Akie's army is over here. We could let them pass and then follow along after them, and then we'll catch them between us near Kyo, and then we'll be able to attack them from both ends. And he also calls over to Uesugi, who is there, and he says, I assume that you agree. And Uesugi is like, yes, that is a wise plan. Now that we've linked up, we'll ride in pursuit of them. And so Sadamune is like, all right, great. And he turns to someone and is like, I'll command the... And then the giants that were introduced a couple of chapters ago just burst through the wall and fully kill two guys by stepping on them as they enter. And Sadamune's eyes bug out, which is hilarious. So, without a care, they both sit on the corpses of the people they've just killed by stomping through the wall. And Yorito, we just kind of get like a really quick reminder of who he is. And he says, listen, the Hojo child defeated you, Sadamune, and Uesugi also failed when he lost Kamakura. You should forfeit your land and troops. You will not be punished since Shiba paid with his life, but Moronao is displeased. I shall take command. I'll not let the enemy pass. That would be cowardly. And so Sadamune carefully chooses his words while challenging this and says, well, then how do you propose we intercept Akie? He has more than twice our troops. And so Yorito beckons over to an attendant who's got some lots in his hand, and he says, we'll decide this fair and square. They're numbered 1 to 5. Number 5, the westernmost position, will strike Akie's main forces. I will draw first. I want position number 5 and I can't see it. So he breaks the guy's fingers and rips them all the way off of his hand so that he can see which one at the bottom is number 5, and then he takes that.
It should have ended there. It was actually that one I was like legitimately kind of like, it's very funny. This guy has no responses. He rips off the arm to be like, now I can finally see which one I want. Ah, there we go. Like missing the point completely. Unfortunately, they kept the joke going a couple more times, and I was like, this didn't have the punctuality you want out of a rule of 3.
He should have just walked out after doing that, and then he would be like, wow, what a scary guy to do that kind of thing. And he has this very straightforward approach to stuff. Like, in a bottle, I do like this joke where he does the classic, like, one man is easy to break, but you unite them together, and then they become unbreakable. The idea is you put sticks or arrows or something together, and when they're bound together, you can't break them in your hand, so the way you could a single one. But he does this by picking up a random person who says, unity is important. A single man is easy to break. He snaps the guy's spine just in his hands. But if you unite them in a bundle, they do not break. He snaps all their spines in his hands. Like, that's funny. I like that twist on it, and everyone just kind of like stares, and Yorito Rio's like, I didn't really make the point I wanted to. Anyway, let's go fight. Just walks away, and that's just kind of it. I do like that Sadamura is like, all right, I mean the positions are still exposed, so I will take the one that I want. And then that's just kind of it. It's like, all right, Toki Yorito's army blocks the Kie's advance. They've got to fight them now. We go over to the Hojo army. Akie splits up the army into different forces, and it's like, let's go and fight and win people I don't like. And Tokiyuki also splits up his forces. He calls over to Nita, the young one, and says, hey, can you take Kojiro with you when you're going on this way? Because I want him to be able to confront Nagao in Uesugi's army. And Kojiro's been following through on his promise to lift heavy things, apparently. And Tokiyuki's been spying on him because he's weird. So he says, like, yeah, go do it. Guard your life. And Kojiro's like, all right, understood. Tokiyuki goes off. He doesn't really know who he's going to run into. And then Sadamune approaches one of the commanders on the other side. He is like, switch positions with my army because I want to take Tokiyuki. And so the battle is going to recommence between the two of them. So we're seemingly being set up to show how much Tokiyuki has grown since the last time he confronted Sadamune.
Yeah, which I'm excited to see. I do have like a soft spot for Sadamune, since this is a character who's kind of been around for a very long time. We've gotten to know him, and I kind of like him. I wasn't like in love with this chapter as a whole, but I was able to be entertained by it.
There's nice little moments here and there throughout it, so it's okay, certainly.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the time for Akane-banashi, story 90. This breeze feels nice.
Aww.
We get a kind of just a reestablishment of like what has brought Asagao to the point that he's at, because he's on the verge of getting promoted. But of course, his journey has not been without setbacks, because he punched Rien and had to start over again. He had to watch his peers and even people who came after him pass him by, and he also has had to deal with the reputation for losing his temper and attacking somebody, and everyone kind of like walking on glass around him and trying not to piss him off and thinking he's a violent guy. And Asagao thinks to himself, like, I used to just go out with my bros, ride motorcycles, carve up the breeze. Those days are long past now. Come out of that, the thought, and Akane is, wrapping up her performance. Karashi talks with Asagao for a bit, and they bring up like, hey, we started off with this performance. We only had 4 people in the audience, and now we've got a packed house. So I don't blame Akane for being excited and stuff. And hey, Karashi, the only reason that we were able to go with her crazy idea is because you had a solid plan as a backup. So thanks. And Karashi's like, no, don't get sappy with me. No.
Not interested.
Don't care. Karashi also takes the stage and goes into it, and we get a breakdown for a few pages of how his style has been evolving under Enso Sanmete, his new master. Whereas Akane has been branching out, broadening her abilities, Karashi has deepened his. The Enso school teaches the model to follow. At the Zenza stage, you have no personality. You are taught to thoroughly mimic Master Enso's style. You would never have imagined that Karashi was once known for his adapted style. Now it's authentic. This is classic traditional Rakugo performed to specification. Apparently he's very good at it.
Yes.
Akane, of course, is now left on the sidelines with Asagao as they're talking about stuff, and she's like, hey, we should move to a 100-seat venue next time. Keep this going. And Asagao's like, we just managed to get to this point. It's like, no, we can do bigger than this. Or do you think you can't handle it? And so that little challenge, Asagao's a little bit pissed off for a second, but then he's like, all right, come on. Are you guys forgetting something? You're all here to see the real star of the show, me. And he takes the stage to give the main event performance. And he goes into a story called The Backward Rickshaw, which is about a man who decides to take a rickshaw to go, who while he's in a hurry, asks the rickshaw driver, can you go fast? Can I go fast? Can I? Do you think? Maybe? The words of doubters! I can't go any speed but fast! Now you're in for a treat! This is beyond speed! Tears off, leaves the man that asked for a ride in the dust. Hey, it's a joke. Hey. And we get a flashback from his perspective as he's going through the story. When he was told by Chocho, you should hold some study events, but don't do them alone. Invite at least 2 other Zenza, people who look up to you, people who are good at the job. Whatever criteria you want, it's all up to you. Nasuka's like, I mean, I could do it alone. But Chocho says, trust me, it's not as bad as you think, having comrades to hone your skill with. Thinks back to his time with his friends that, of course, we've established the long-running bonds between him and Shinta and some of the other masters. And now, in the present, Asuka acknowledges, I get what you meant. This breeze feels nice. Because he's riding the rickshaw, he's riding a motorcycle with his buddies again.
Yeah.
Aww. After the show's over, Asagao approaches Akane and is like, hey, I got a favor to ask you. And Akane's like, 100-seat venue? No, not that. And instead, he presents her with a flyer. He says, Master has given me my choice of an opening act. I'm choosing you. And importantly, not only is this very sweet, but the only person who can recommend Akane for advancement is going to be there. Yes. Taizen Arakawa. So it turns out the path that she took this whole time was leading her to this.
Yeah. And we also find out so many little detail, why this show was supposed to be so crazy, because you're having people from the 2 different factions of Rakugo competing on the same or working together on the same show. These are the 2 people that Akane's father was friends with, so that's why he's going to be going to this show. And then she's there to almost kind of complete this trifecta sort of thing. So it's a very interesting. I feel like maybe Asagao doesn't realize all of the context, because if I was him, I'd be a little bit like, kind of feels like you're overshadowing. Yeah, kind of feels like you're overshadowing me a little bit here. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of drama in all of this.
And Asagao, I do really like that Asagao brings up, I've actually already talked about this with Karashi. He said, yeah, sure, why not? So he's just fine with it. But he thanks Akane because, hey, her big idea is what got them this far. And Akane, she's obviously very touched by this. She's covering herself with the flyer. And she's like, it's your big day, Ani-san. Are you sure about this? And and then she's like, it's not just that. Ever since I started working backstage, you've done so much for me. And she's thinking about how he went out of his way to look out for her, apologize on her behalf, and help smooth things over when she got in trouble. And Asagao just goes, shut up. I'm asking because I want you for it. Simple as that. And then he starts teasing her You know, it's like, well, you're always so gung-ho about everything. What? You think you can't hack it, huh? And that pops Akane back up. And she's like, nah, it's your big day, and I'm going to help make it a show to remember. And she's all excited.
Oh, that's so sweet. I like this chapter. I mean, it's ultimately a very sweet chapter with like some cool little surprises for stuff going on. But I also liked it because like we finally get to see Asuko do Rakugo. And like this is a character who's felt like he's been significant for a while, but like we've never really, at least I don't recall, like have really focused on him very much as an actual performer. And like the whole premise of this arc is like it's his debut event. And like, you know, there's all this lore of the world that's kind of overshadowed, but it's nice to actually see him in this chapter and what he's about and what he chooses like to kind of do. And I was like, oh, like I like this guy more as a character. I want his debut to go well now.
Yeah. There is going to be a lot going on, of course, because there is this weird reunion going on top of Asagao's debut. And yeah, Akane is going to potentially get the chance to hopefully make a good impression on the only person who can recommend her for advancement for years.
And perform live in front of her father.
In front of her father. So, oh man, we're closing in on chapter 100, by the way. So it feels like that might coincide there nicely.
Yeah, of course, Nick. It is time to wrap up Weekly Manga Recap by talking about another series that crossed 100 chapters. Or should I say, 1,101. This is One Piece, chapter 1101, Tubani. We get a cool color page where we see Vegapunk and all of his different satellites. It's very nice. I get to see my boy Pythagoras again.
It looks like a Power Rangers pose.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
Very colorful in a nice way, too. I liked Lilith's costume before. That is a color scheme, though. I don't know if the pastel pink bodysuit with the bright purple jacket. You know what? Actually, the more I like the look at it, the more I like it. So actually, you know what? It's perfect.
The jacket's fine. I don't like that she's got Nami's hair color because...
Nick, why? Would you have challenges recognizing the two of them next to each other?
No, she wears a jacket. It's fine.
Yeah. She has pants. That's the way you identify this character from any other woman in this series. I was saying that and I was like, oh, not all of them. And then I looked over and I was like, York also doesn't wear pants. So, Nick, we're still in the flashback. We are 3 years now from the current time One Piece. We're about 1 year removed from the start of One Piece. And we are in the Goa Kingdom, as we kind of guessed last week. We see Luffy practicing his Gum Gum Axe technique as Kuma watches. And we see like sort of a little miniature flashback of Kuma and Dragon, where Kuma's asking him, is like, hey, you know, you seem really familiar with this particular location. And I couldn't help but notice you like travel to a little village on the edge of the country and watch a particular person. And Dragon just says, keep going if you want to see me get killed. I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he's like, children are a vulnerability for any parent. And Kuma's like, oh, I didn't see it. Forget I said anything, basically. And hey, Nick, we get a little nugget of dragon lore, which, you know, we always joke like he's the bad dad, but in his own way, he's trying to look out for Luffy, it looks like.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice to know that he did at least keep tabs on Luffy. And he does sum up pretty nicely, like, why in his head he was like, I have to do this. I can't be around him. Like,
and I mean,
I won't be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
we have the proof that, like, it can be used against you with Kuma. That, like, he did anything for his daughter, and they turned him into a weapon and then enslaved him. So, there's a little bit there. Back into the flashback, Luffy is like bragging. He's like, oh, this was a really cool attack. I'm going to use it once I get crewmates. And then there'll be times where they get beat up or captured. And when that happens, I'm going to give it everything. I'm going to use a Gum Gum Axe to take them out. But he starts to like realize someone's there. He looks, Kuma pops away before he can see him. Luffy's like, that's weird. I felt something that was like strong. I bet there's like a big boss animal in this forest. I'm going to go beat it up before I leave. So, uh, we cut over and we see Kuma is kind of doing the work that like government asks him, but he doesn't do it in the way that they want him to. They're like, "Hey, pirates attacked a merchant ship. Go sink that ship at once." And instead, he stops to help out the merchants and make sure they get somewhere safe. Then when he gets to the pirates, he doesn't sink their ship. He's like, "Give back everything you stole." And they're like, "Okay, cool. If you're not going to kill us, then yeah, we'll absolutely."
You're Kuma, sure.
Yeah. And while that's happening, he's writing a little letter to Bonnie, just like, "Yeah, this world is so beautiful, more than any picture books. I wish I could take you with me." And then we cut it over to the Sorbet Kingdom, and she's like, "Is it here yet? Is it here yet? Is the letter here?" And she's looking through the little mail. This is heartbreaking. She's looking through a little mailbox. She has her little stool, and she's reaching in, and they're like, "Oh, he's probably just really busy, you know, and it takes some time for the mail to get here." And she's like, "But Daddy said he'd write me a lot of letters." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, but it takes a long time for letters to come. They'll get here eventually. You know, don't worry about it." And we see the news coup show up. And it drops some stuff, drops some mail, and Alpha's outside. And she's like, "A newspaper and a letter." And then suddenly there's something inside the mailbox. Just a paper. And, you know, Bonnie frowns and goes like, "Mwah." And we look over outside as Alpha is looking at a letter, and she's like, "How many letters is this? It's like 10 this month. There must have been dozens." Well, what a sap. And she rips up the letter into a big garbage pail that we can already see is pretty full of like ripped up letters at this point.
She needs to die, Quinn. She needs this woman needs to die.
This was and like, to be clear, this isn't even a part of the deal Kuma made. It wasn't like there was a no contact deal. She just is a bad person, basically. So we see then that Bonnie is like, "Oh, let's fight. I want a rough house." And she's gotten big. She's gotten like burly. Yeah. Which is an interesting thing, as we'll close in later. But that's when Alpha comes in, and Bonnie really quickly shifts back into her regular form. Like, for a moment, I thought she looked like a giantess. And, you know, Alpha's giving Bonnie her medicine. And Yu-Gi-Oh! And Connie talk real quick, and he's like, "Hey, why is it bad if Alpha finds out about Bonnie's powers?" And he's like, Connie's like, "Well, let's just be safe. Let's keep something in our back pocket, basically, just in case." Cut over to the lab in Egghead Island. It's not officially called that yet, but it's going to be. And everyone's like, "Oh, wow, Dr. Vegapunk, you're so amazing." He's like, "Yes, after this, I think I will use the island clouds and build more of it there. And truth is, half of what you'll see here is actually a hologram, and I had planned this for Punk Hazard as well." And Stussy is there. She's talking to Vegapunk, and he has advanced to his apple hat now. He's expelled the giant head, basically. And Stussy asks, like, "Oh, so are you really going to lose your free will, Kuma, at this point?" And she just posits a question. She's like, "Oh, I wonder what's worse off." Yeah, she's like, "I wonder what's worse off, a clone with our own free will or a real human with none?" And Vegapunk's like, "No, you are a real person. Like, don't speak of yourself that way, basically." Yeah. But Kuma does ask, like, "What does it mean to lose my free will?" And it's just like, you won't have any handicaps. Whatever the government tells you to do, you will do. Even if it's like killing a kid, you will follow their orders to a T, basically. And I'm going to do everything in my power to give you as much resistance to that as possible until the very end. And you have about another year left of that. And that's when he notices that Kuma's writing another letter. And Kuma's like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep sending them for as long as I can. I love my daughter, and I have another year to write out an entire life's worth of emotions." It's so painful. Stussy is like, "Oh, that's so sweet." We see Kumo's like, "Oh, Bonnie's going to be 9 soon. I bet she's going to be so big." He's sending this letter, and he's like, I don't know when this is going to reach you, but happy 9th birthday, Bonnie. And we cut over, and it's Bonnie's 9th birthday back in the Sorbet Kingdom. Everyone's celebrating. She gets a giant pizza from Queen Connie, which is nice. She loves her big pizzas, as we do. But everyone parties, and they go to bed, and then little Bonnie gets on her little footstool, and she reaches into the mailbox, and she's like, there's still no letters. Don't you know I'm 9 now, Daddy?
No!
This is so fucking painful. Don't you know I'm 9 now, Daddy? Come on. She starts crying because she's like, you said you're going to write me letters. We see again that the letter Kuma was writing is another one just ripped up and tossed into the bin that is getting more and more full of letters. There's a brief little bit where they explain that Kuma has been saving revolutionaries when he can, but he leaves without saying anything. It's like Kuma doesn't want any of us to go after him, and Dragon's like, I don't know what's going on, but he must have his reasons, something he can't tell us. Cut back, Sorbet Kingdom. Bonnie's like, I'm all better. See all the little stones. Everything's gone now. I'm all cured. I want to go outside. And Alpha's like, no, you can't. We're under instructions to take care of you until your 10th birthday. She's like, bullshit, you are. Vegapunk says I'd be cured at this point. It's been a year, so I can go outside now. She's like, nope, you still can't. And Connie at this point has learned that like Alpha is part of a government program. That she's like, okay, someone in town let this slip that your disease is already cured. So I don't know what they've got going on. And it doesn't make sense that Kuma wouldn't have sent you a letter. So I've already basically instructed my men to go take you out to sea. And you're going to go find your father.
Yeah.
So very, very sweet. Connie, fucking the MVP here. I won't give him my MVP, unfortunately. But the real MVP in this moment. We just get a little scene of Connie walking out of the building. She's smiling. She says, I'm off to go to the palace. And Alpha's like, okay, have a good one, Queen Connie. And we know that it's Bonnie using her age powers to make her look like Connie. And she's so excited. She's like, I'm outside. I can see the sky. I can see the sun. People inside of the church are looking on from the outside. And they're like, this is a miracle. There's a God. She can actually go outside. It's so beautiful. She runs towards the ship with the crewmates we know. The ship looks like a giant slice of pizza, which is just so cool.
And I freaking love just that little image of her. She's dragging her suitcase behind her, and tiny little Bonnie's running for the ship, waving to them. Oh,
yeah, it's so cute. Alpha goes inside, sees Queen Connie inside, and she's like,
it's
"Wait,
me, Bonnie."
Yeah.
What?
She's like, "No, you aren't." The ship set sail at this point. They're going to go out to the shore, but Alpha is running after the ship. And she's like, you know what? I tried to be nice, but if you did anything, like try to escape, I get to use non-lethal force on you. So I'm going to solve this my way. And she starts using the 6 powers to like moonwalk or skywalk over. I forget the exact term. But she's coming over and she's going to like beat them up. And that's when Bonnie remembers what her dad had always told her. She asked, like, hey, what does Nico look like? And he was like, well, no one knows, but it's said that his body had properties like rubber, and he fought however he fancied. And Bonnie activates a new ability, a distorted future, a Nika-like future where her arm grows huge like a giant, and she punches Alpha out of the sky. And we end the chapter with some narration saying the escape of Bonnie the hostage was relayed to the government at once. And eventually, the fishing boat in search of her father transformed into a pirate crew in the new world, much like Luffy's.
Oh.
It's so satisfying. She gets to go out and find her father again. It's also... This is like a crazy ability for her fruit to have that like it can, create timelines of other versions of herself. I love Bonnie and Kuma so much that when she first started, like when she was like big and everything like that, I was like, oh, it's because she's tapping into her Buccaneer blood like Kuma has. And then I was like, oh, that's right. She's not Kuma's biological kid, so she wouldn't have that. But for me, There was no doubt for that moment. I was like, yeah, of course she would, because she's his kid. This is a very heart string pulling chapter. The letters are so brutal. Oda's really, really good at telling these stories. I think we might have like maybe one more flashback chapter left in this. But yeah, it's really good. People are saying that maybe she's used distorted future before. Totally possible. I don't remember every technique she's ever done. But really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think this is a great origin story for Bonnie, top to bottom. Obviously, this is primarily Kuma's story, because a lot of it is from his perspective. It's about his struggle with giving up everything to try and protect her. But it was, God, in all of the sadness that we see unfold over the last couple of months, it was very, very nice to see something happen for Bonnie, and getting her to see her like, and this is how her pirate journey begins. It's like, hell yeah, go get him, Bonnie.
Yeah, this is.
I know your journey doesn't technically go well for a lot of it, but
yeah, I know
get him, Bonnie.
I know that eventually your crew's gonna get attacked, and Blackbeard will try to make you his woman and stuff like that, but. Before this, it's very cool, and you do get to see your memories. The happy thing is knowing that because she saw Kuma's memories, she knows that he always was sending her letters, and probably gets to know a little bit of the contents of it, which is nice. Really cool though, and super satisfying to see her punch Alpha. That was like,
oh yeah,
primo stuff.
If you want to make people hate a character in a single chapter, here you go.
Yeah, good stuff on that. All right, let's wrap this up, Nick.
Yeah, favorite chapter and MVP for this week, Quinn.
Yeah, this was a good week of chapters, like especially in recapping it. I'm like probably like 6 or 7 series I think compete. But when I think of the chapter I enjoyed the most, I think I'm gonna go with My Hero Academia. I really, really enjoyed Bakugo just beating the shit out of All for One, just hitting him with explosions over and over again, and just telling him to shut the fuck up. It's very satisfying. It's like watching a face wrestler you like beat up that heel who you cannot fucking stand and keeps winning matches, and when it happens, you're like, yes, finally! Fuck you, Triple H!
Yeah. I've got to agree with you. There were a lot of good chapters this week. Blue Box was nice, as it typically is. Cipher Academy, we had obviously a lot of fun with it. Greens, nice to see it continuing to grow. Akane-banashi, very sweet. One Piece, very, very good. It give me what I want, and this was what I want. Bakugo blowing All for One up.
Give me what I want!
Over and over.
Kaboom! Give me what I want! Kaboom!
I cannot in good conscience not give it to My Hero Academia. It was like, finally, yes, this is the way it had to go down.
Yeah. My MVP is going to be Bonnie. I think she came off so cool. I was so emotionally invested in her throughout this chapter. In like my list of like favorite supernovas, she was like mid-tier or something like that. She shot straight up to the top. I think she's absolutely one of the like coolest supernovas now. I love her backstory. Every bit of her is like cool now. Like I super invested in this character. It's very emotional. Great stuff from Bonnie.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you again. Which I think we don't typically agree on both counts very often. But yeah, I gotta go with that. There were, again, a lot of good choices for stand-up moments for characters. We had fun talking about like what Oga did, Bakugo himself, and also just, it was a nice standout moment for Asagao in this week as well. But if a moment that is as small as just Bonnie running towards the ship can get me that excited, then yeah,
you get that emotional like spectrum,
resonance.
That emotional spectrum of her on her birthday reaching into the mailbox being like, why didn't you write me a letter, Daddy? To her getting to run towards this ship, her first time seeing the sun in years at this point, and she's so excited because she's gonna get to see her dad. She's gonna go on an adventure to see him. It's beautiful. It's art. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So,
our heathen audience didn't agree, though. Spy Family, one chapter of the week, and Bakugo, one character of the week. You're all bastards. I just want you to know you're all making Bonnie sad.
just so long as everyone makes sure to vote for Wizard and Witch worst couple of the year. Okay. That's gonna do it, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We will have more next time. But if you can't hold on until then, there's more Weekly Manga Recap that you can listen to. We've got every episode over on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap if you like the video version. Also, you can check it out on your favorite podcasty type sites like iTunes, Spotify, and all that stuff. The audio version will be available on. You can also join the WMR Discord server, which will be linked wherever this is posted. If you go on there, you can not only have a good time hanging out with our wonderful community, but you can also find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of all sorts of statistics. You can ask questions for for us to answer on a future episode. You can make recommendations for a manga series you'd like to hear us talk about. And you can also just vote and say like what you liked about any given week, or even for an entire year of manga. You can talk about some of your favorite moments on there as well. There's a big thing that we do at the end of each year coming up that you can add your thoughts on. We'd also like to thank Milo Jack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar. They created the opening sequence that plays the beginning of the video version of the show over on YouTube. And some occasional YouTube thumbnails are made for us by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out all across the internet, wherever booby ladies can be drawn.
Yes. All right. I think that's it. We've done everything. Now it's time for us to go. I'm going to go lay in my little matchbox with a little blanket on top of it. I shrink down when a podcast ends, Nick. I actually get down to like about that big. And I sleep in a matchbox, and I have what would to you would just be like a regular cube of cheese, but I grab giant chunks of it the size of my head and shout out, I'm a cartoon mouse. It's what I'm trying to say.
Do you also ride around on a toy motorcycle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm Stuart Little, actually, is what we're really getting at here.
Two different ones, but okay. Good night, everyone.
Bye.